Hey everybody, welcome to a Saturday step-by-step paint. We're going to do an extra big canvas, a 20-inch by 20-inch canvas, and we're going to paint a gorgeous wicker chair in a field of lavender. I know I'm painting a lot of lavender on the channel, like a lot of lavender, but we're redoing a room, and my mother-in-law helped repaint the room purple, and so we needed a big purple painting, so you guys get a big purple painting. Every once in a while, my life does encroach
Yep.
a little bit into you guys' space. To help me do this madness and mayhem is my husband, John.
Hello.
So we do 2 classes. We do an easy class on Friday night and then a more challenging class on Saturday. I introduce maybe different materials than you're familiar with, lots of new techniques, more challenging images, longer paintings, just more. It's still beginner focused, and then I'm going to explain every step of the process. It's not a demo. It is definitely still a full step-by-step real-time tutorial. You're really going to be feeling that during the gridding phase. If you go to the website and you go to our calendar, you click the calendar, it's going to open up an event page. On the event page is a grid reference complimentary for you and a ungridded reference complimentary for you. And I highly suggest, we do a picture-in-picture, but I highly suggest printing that stuff out so that you have it for you as you're working, so you can really see it and really follow along.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to do anything to get it. It's just there. So I think so. Do they have to sign in for an event page?
No, I don't believe so. No.
I didn't want to say, you're good. You don't have to do nothing. And then you're like, girl, I had to make an account. Are you crazy? You shouldn't be that. It's been kind of a week. I'm a little pear-shaped, I think,
You're
recently.
wound up.
Wound up, but just pear-shaped. I think what it is, and I think this whole canvas, we usually do wishes on the canvas, but I'm going to say this whole canvas today is for anybody out there who's going through financial difficulties because of the pandemic. If you are worried about your housing, if you're worried about where your next meal is coming from, I am really hoping that the things that need to happen to help restore your family and restore families all over the world do happen. I don't know what all that is, but it would be really great to see that happen. So that's my wish from my family to your family. Are you guys ready to relax a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's another thing. If you can't paint right now, please still stay in chat. Don't be alone at home. If you just came in to see what this crazy woman with pink hair is doing, I'd like to invite you to my community and introduce them to you. They are the sweetest people in the world. You want to meet them. And if you're feeling a little bit low, they can help cheer you up,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not painting. Interesting to watch artists do our crazy thing anyways. We drink coffee, we say odd things, and we paint pictures. How fun is that?
It's true.
Right? No, it's not 12 minutes of piano music and a bunch of blendy cuts, but still very chill. Still relaxing.
We keep it low key.
Still a little mellow. I know it doesn't seem like I could be low key with the hair, but I have moments,
You do.
I think.
I think so.
Mm.
I like it here.
I love last night's painting. Look at this big boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got to be able to get to this, babe. You like clamped it down. You were like, it will go nowhere.
No, it
But
will
it
not
needs to
move.
go somewhere because I got to paint around the edges. Otherwise,
Okay.
we got to frame it. So
Boy.
this big boy is a level 3 artist loft canvas. So they have these at Michael's. Now, this would be different from a lot of other canvases that are at this level because normally they're folded and these are cut. That said, they're still pretty darn economical. You can get them on a half off coupon. They look like the upgraded canvases, like they're a pretty good duplicate for that. And you don't got a frame.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you don't got a frame thing. The thing my mom and I always have to remember is to paint the bottom of the canvas. Let's go over the colors for this crazy day. Why did I do this, John? I don't know. You could show them picture in picture what they're going to be painting.
I could show them that. Well, I was going to wait for you to get...
Oh, okay. So the colors today, we're going to start out with a background of a mix of burnt sienna and phthalo green. Those colors are going to stay out. I've got some titanium white here, some yellow ochre, cad red, dioxazine purple. You might have seen that one coming because there's a lot of purple in this picture. I have some cad yellow, some phthalo blue, way too much Mars black. Let's put one of these to the side. So much Mars black. Quinacridone fuchsia, which is really essentially a quinacridone magenta. Legged Naples yellow, which is a Tighten It yellow. It is not the color that looks like a Band-Aid. It's the color that looks like a soft greenish yellow, like a baby chick. And then just sometimes it's nice with the dioxazine and the quinacridone to have a little ultramarine. It's optional. It's a treat. You don't have to have it. It's just nice if you do. I'm going to put my colors that I'm not currently using very gently to the sides. The caps don't all fall off.
Mm-hmm.
Because I let my caps get a little gummed up from time to time, as you do. And I'm going to put the wish on our canvas first to put into the universe, which is well-being for families around the world. There we go. Let's hope that is the state of things in the world. I'm going to put out an ample amount of phthalo green and burnt sienna. And the reason for this, it's going to be almost a one-to-one, is I want to make a very dark base to begin with. It's going to help me put my grid in. It's going to help me sketch in. It's also going to give me some nice depth and contrast to build up from. To give myself an easy time, I'm going to just go ahead and take an artist knife to mix these together. I will be surprised if I don't use all of this. It will shock me. Shock me, shock me, shock me. But you never know. The other good option for background here, I almost did, was dioxazine purple and phthalo green, which would have made a very nice, interesting, dark background as well. But I thought we would go with this because it lets us build up the greenery so nicely. I'm going to wipe off my palette knife. And then I'm going to get my big brush, this boy. Let's go ahead. I'm going to show you a little trick here. I have this micro mister.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and mist my canvas with some water. And this is going to make it a little easier for me to get this paint out. I'm going to take this this is a 2-inch cutter by Silver Brush. I think these now are a mix of hog and synthetic, but it's a beautiful big brush. And the bristles are best, it's called Best Dressed. It's the bristles kind of interlock and come in at each other like that. And they're all nice and split end. Because in brushes, we like split ends, especially on natural surfaces. See how nice that paint goes out?
Those split ends, those are, they actually hold the paint.
They hold the paint. It makes soft, wonderful little edges. Soft, wonderful little edges. So you can see this gets me a nice start. I will probably actually want... That's how you get when you... I'm going to put this guy back. So say you... I don't know. I can't get him back now because he doesn't want to be... Oh, there he is. See that hair?
Hold on, wait.
You don't want that to dry on the surface.
I want to see it. Shh.
Hog bristles will, on occasion, shed.
How do you
This
get it
should
off?
not be full of hair. This should have like a hair, 2 hair for the whole painting process. And that's just because they break sometimes as you're using them.
How do you get
You
it
just
out?
come in and you just sweep it off
Ooh,
like
you
that.
just scooped it right out of there.
Just sweep it right off. Coat 1 is a very good coat. The big pain is that you got to do the sides too. And what I'm doing is just making sure my surface feels lovely. The hard part of this image probably will be sketching in the chair. Just because it's a bit architectural and it has some stuff going on with it. I'm very excited to hang this in the new room.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, my purple. I've got another painting I want to do in there, but it's a replica
Trying to see if I can... There it goes.
of another artist's work, so you won't get to see it on the show.
Yeah.
But I do really want it in there. I'm going to dip in. And I just want a little bit of water into my brush. Again, I don't want to make it sopping or ridiculously wet. Now, do I have my hair dryer here?
I
I'm
don't
going to
know.
real quick dry,
Okay.
and then I'm going to turn the canvas. I'm going to rotate it. It's going to do a cool thing. Well, real quick dry.
Okay.
I'm not.
I'm
not going to dry.
Are you not going to dry?
I'm not going to dry.
Okay, I'll come fix the dry one.
Science is
You know
gonna
what you
come
need to do?
And if there's questions, I
hold
can
on.
answer them now. Let's do that.
There is something you need to do.
Okay, yes.
Because Patty
Hi,
sent
Patty.
the biggest celebration of bubbles. I'm going to go back and find it. Light, love, laughter, and bubbles.
Light, love, laughter, and bubbles on Saturday. Breathe in the good energy of the bubbles and breathe away the stress of the week. Breathe in the good energy of the bubbles and breathe out the stress of the week. If you do this with me, I didn't think of it because we have the show, and sometimes I don't think of all the things I might do for myself when I'm just painting alone in my studio. But I might have been tempted to hit a little aromatherapy in the lavender range to really help inspire me and put on some really nice harp music. I think that's, if I was just creating my ambiance for this, that's probably what I would have done. Unfortunately, I got to talk to teach. I know. So less harp music, more painting and teaching. But if it was just me in my own studio, it's a suggestion I want to make if you haven't ever done that. You're amazing, stunt hands.
Hold on. Don't start yet.
I won't. I just think he's so funny. He's like, I would. Okay, understand he's tall and he's gorgeous and he's handsome and he hates being on camera. It gives him so much anxiety. I have tried. You guys are like, hey, can he be on the show? I've asked. He's like, no. His own son rescued him one year for April Fool's because he wouldn't come on camera. So I'm going to say it's a probably not. But give him lots of love anyways, because I couldn't do this show without him at all. Not even a little bit.
So, what I will say is, camera, things aside, I do much better back here where I can, help make sure that we can see what we need to see, get all my cameras into the right place, and we can. But that's much more like what I tend to do. So, I think she's just getting that surface dry. Now, the big thing is as you're drying your surface here, is make sure it's thoroughly dry. And don't use heat because heat will make it soft, make the paint soft. Heat will make your paint soft because acrylic paint is made of synthetic products that are made soft by heat. So don't heat them up, and make sure they're thoroughly dry because when they're not thoroughly dry or they're warm, they get sticky, and that'll grab the brush and cause it to not cover correctly, and sometimes it can pull the paint off the surface. So you want to make sure that you go ahead and just thoroughly dry it. Use air only. That's why she's taking a little longer than normal to make sure that this is covered. It's such a large surface that it's important to make sure we get it thoroughly dry.
Ooh, it's so good to be on a reasonable size canvas again.
Is that reasonable sized?
Yeah, if you think back to when I was working, this would have been a smallish canvas. I really like a 4860.
This is okay. So
I like to have a little bit of room to stretch out, but you guys like to sleep or go home or have a life, and the bigger pictures take a little longer. They're real fun. This easel you see me paint on is actually for those large size canvases. I'm dipping in, tapping off. I'll hit the second coat now.
Aha.
Right? And I can get the sides on this. So that way I get all four sides and 2 coats on the front. How nice is that? But it looks like I'm going to have to put out some more paint. You can really, with these brushes, work in what you've got.
Now, what color green is that?
Huh?
Which shade of green?
Well, it's a mixture. It is 1 part burnt sienna and 1 part phthalo green.
Ooh.
Gives me a nice, deep, rich green. And we could name it whatever you want. You can give it whatever vanity name you want. Go ahead and name this color. What is this color? And then if we ever make it and put it in a tube, it could be named that. You never know. We're crazy people. We might.
It could be that green-brown color the Sherpa makes.
Yeah, it seems like long labeling. Not to be critical. I'm just saying it seems like long in the labeling.
We've never been shy of that before.
I know we have not. My inability to give things names is worked out in Discovery because I used to name things with the objects in the painting.
Yeah, girl with dog near tree.
Yep. So that worked out well. All right, dipping in just a little bit of water. And I may go ahead and just this time a super light mist,
Okay.
not heavy at all, just to help improve the flow. What you never, ever, ever want to do is put an anti-surfactant and sulfacant in a mister bottle and spray it like a flow aid, because it's super bad for your lungs.
Well,
But water works pretty darn good and has very low side effects, being water and all. But who knows? I'm sure very soon here they're going to come and tell us water is super deadly, cause of all that's wrong.
It's if you look on the side of any of your artist materials, your fine art materials should have a little artist certification warning, and it should say AP or CL in that little circle.
Mm-hmm.
And AP means that it's generally going to be safe, and CL means that it has caution, and you need
should
to be
read
careful.
those caution labels.
That's right. Definitely read those caution labels to make sure you're not allergic or having some other
concern.
That's right. To make sure that those are, you watch those.
And you can't expect to see that kind of stuff on YouTube videos in general, because that's not necessarily something, a YouTuber would think about. That's something that they kind of cover in art school or traditional art processes, because they recognize every once in a while you're going to get into some pretty intense chemicals. Good news is, though, when there's a pandemic, you have a whole bunch of the equipment necessary for the pandemic sort of already laying around. Because the same masks that keep you safe are the ones that help you when you've got to spray anything that you shouldn't breathe in. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Hold on to them. After we get through this, you'll have a nice mask for your art studio.
That's right. Because there's lots of times that you need that.
Now, I'm going to definitely rinse this out a little bit. It's got a lot of green in it.
Although I have to say, the mask that I'm required to wear in the lab is much more filtery than the one that I'm required to wear to Walmart.
Yeah.
There's a lot more apparatus to it.
Yeah, actually, we're going to send some to my dad because our masks are better than what he can get. And I'm like, you want an art mask? I've got some. You can go to the doctor then. All right, putting this aside, just getting covered in paint. Now, to do this particular piece, I'm going to want to really put in a lot of the purple and background first, because I want it to show through the wicker of the chair. So I might end up painting some things that I paint out. I'm going to really be working it down through this range here. Just some general coverage of like the purples and some of the colors that I'm going to want. So let's put out some colors and talk to people while we do it.
I forgot. I just remember this is a good time. We forgot to do like one of those totally self-plugging things. We got masks.
Yeah. Gee, okay, so I don't love my mask. I mean, I wear it. I'm a responsible person. I would never want to hurt anybody. But I don't get a lot of joy from it. Now we got joyful masks. If you check below the video, there's a little bar that's to our Teespring store. And there's a collection of 9 masks. And we've got a coupon code, is Spread Joy. That way you can spread joy instead of germs. But you can do that, and they're real pretty. They're a polyester and cotton, and they're comfort wear. You can see them down there and check them out. There's so many. The most popular one has been the sunset tree. Everyone has really liked that one a lot. Putting out some dioxazine purple. Gonna put out some quinacridone magenta.
So, Susan asks, John, are you a lab tech? And Linda says, no, he's not a lab tech. And I don't know, Frankenfurter would say I'm a decent lab tech.
He's a lab tech in the way that Silicon Valley did computers in a garage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to put out a little more brown over here. And I'll just keep this near here because that won't bother me if it picks up into that old color that I have out. Let's also put out some, I'm going to put out some phthalo blue. I think that will come in super useful in this next part. And maybe my ultramarine blue too. I'm going to see how that kind of goes. I don't perceive that I will need any black yet. Nice ultramarine. Ultramarine is one of those colors, if it's not milled correctly, it gets real grainy and clumpy. Not my favorite. And just in case, I'm going to put out some Cad yellow and Naples yellow to lighten, and I'll put out my white. I didn't put out all the colors ahead, even though that speeds everything up a bit, because we really wanted to have the room to work on the piece. Oh, wonderful. Now, I can take a question as I'm letting this dry or hair dry. Either way is fine.
Let's see here. I'll go back over here because I was just...
Look at my green canvas. This is what you showed up live for. Hey, green canvas.
Now, how hard would this be to do on a smaller canvas? Sabrina asks.
Super easy. I could have done it, but I didn't because I want a nice statement piece on the wall. But very easy on an 8x8 or a 10x10. Just take the reference image that we provided for you over to Grid Tutor and grid it for the size canvas that you're using.
Okay, so so certain paints like golden bone black, for example.
Yes.
Do you have to wear gloves when using it? Like, are there certain paints you need to wear gloves with?
Yes, there are certain paints you need to wear gloves with, and there's some paints that other people don't need to wear gloves with that you might. Two things. Read the safety on the tube of paint.
Yes.
There are some toxic, less in acrylic lines than in oil lines. If you're an oil painter, be extra, extra careful because you guys get the good pigments.
Let me jump on that one real quick.
Okay, all right.
Because golden, for sure, on their labeling are ASTDM. They're American standard testing. So if you look on there, it will say.
And also European safety.
Yes.
They have both labels.
So you look on there, they're very standard. It will tell you if there's anything you need to be concerned about on the label.
Paint companies really don't want to kill you.
Yeah.
So they try to tell you. The only time I ever find that is difficult is if you buy. So some companies sound European, but they're actually Japanese. And the only issue with that is that if you buy overseas paint that isn't released from here, the labeling may not carry over. So like Holbein, one of the best companies in the world, incredible pigment. If you were to like buy something over there, right, online from Japan, you know, they have some really powerful pigments. They use lead, they have cadmium. You want to make sure that you know the labels. That's when it's important to be safe. So you really need to know a company. If you're going to buy a label you can't read, if you're a beginner, I say always buy a label that you can read in your native language.
Okay, so what was so funny is I found some new paint on Amazon.
Yeah.
That was totally a fabrication. Like it had like this really big fancy name and a crest, like it was a 100-year-old company.
It's not.
It was just somebody made it up. It
There's
was brand
very
new.
few 100-year-old companies left.
Yeah,
Even the ones that seem like they're left aren't really left because they've been bought by a conglomerate and changed.
It's true. It was
So
fabrication.
They're rare. They're a rare beast. You want to take care of them.
Ooh. So what is you're going to grid?
What is that?
I'm
going to grid to get my chair in because I don't want to trust myself to freehand my chair, but I got to get in a lot of lavender and flowers first.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get that in. Let's start getting that in. I'm going to still go bigger brush.
You are?
This is my 1-inch cutter. I think it's going to be really good. Oh, it's still a little tacky. I'm going to dry it real quick just to make sure
That
it's
seems
ready.
like a good thing to just get.
It's tacky.
Don't want a tacky surface. So this is where it's really important to make sure that you get that thoroughly dry because as you go in and start adding those additional layers, it can delaminate. And that's why she's over there feeling that edge, making sure that it stays nice and you don't want to let any of the paint around the edges either be wet because sometimes that'll sneak in there and cause trouble.
What causes trouble?
When you get the wet paint on the edge of the surface and then it drags in there.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to pull out a little purple, just some deep purple. I'm going to release some of the color with some white. With dioxazine purple, it's so deep and it's so staining that sometimes you may get some ultramarine in there. Want to definitely release some of that color with the white because you're not going to really see it. We're going to just I'm going to just push in this first layer. I'm just wanting to get upper third is a kind of out of focus purple
Yep.
and little peaks of green. And it's nice to have the green underneath and the depth underneath because it may not necessarily show on camera, but it will show to the naked eye.
Now, if you're doing this at home, should you expect to do at least 2 background coats?
I would do too. I think you're going to be happier with the result. You've got a lot of layers on here, so if you were feeling pressed for time, I guess you could shorten that
But at the
if
point
it felt
you're doing it
necessary.
like a gigantic canvas,
Yeah.
may as well just take a
Well,
little...
this is for my home, so I'm going to be here a minute, guys. My mother-in-law's worked very, very hard on painting this room, and I want to make sure we have a beautiful painting for it to celebrate all that hard work.
That makes sense.
The wonderful thing about being an artist is you really, really can just do anything you need to for the walls. This is the ultramarine and a little bit of the ox purple. And I'm just using a 1-inch brush. And you can see it's a stroke. This is a very kind of messy stroke, like I'm just pulling down. The reason I'm pulling this stroke down is there's a texture. These are spike flowers, and spike flowers have kind of a vertical texture. So even in stuff that feels very out of focus, you do want to kind of speak to those things if you can. I'm going to go all the way across the top just to, if I have purple splatters on my face.
You have little corners of white up there, so you may want to have to...
Yeah, that's the issue with these canvases.
You're going to have to touch them up and make sure that you...
Yeah, there we go. Because I can't see them, you guys can see them.
Because I have the upper camera.
You don't have to be, in my experience, super precious around the edge. You just want some of the continuity of the painting so that when it's on the wall and you're viewing it at a different angle, it looks good. Maybe we should have gone with a 2-inch brush. Just take
Maybe.
Just, whew. Nothing makes a painting hard work than using the wrong brush. Too small a brush. Tip, don't use too small a brush. I think I could do this with the big brush. I do. This might have been my detail work brush. I'm sweating even. We have to run the AC. You guys will never hear the show. Come watch this artist sweat and paint purple. So you're going to notice that I am being vigorous and not precious. And that's really just because the preciousness does not, it's not necessary. I haven't covered every single bit of the canvas. There is green peeking through. I will put brighter pops of green in as a detail, but not here. Now here's an interesting thing. I'm going to get my kind of Naples yellow into this. And what's interesting is it will both gray and lighten the purple. I'm going to make some short little strokes like that. Enjoy this space. Whatever you do around the edges, you do want to carry on a bit. Your hands are going to be, if you go out anywhere, you're going to have the purple. If you don't have the Naples yellow, just use the white. You know, or tighten it yellow would also be acceptable. And if you need to know more about this color or want to know if there's inexpensive dupes or who all sells it, because it comes in a variety of price points, I have a blog on my website all about that. And I love this company because they have a student level of paint and a pro level of paint, which means this color is available at both price points.
Mm.
Very important. So just layering that up, getting that texture going. And you can see this brush is like my friend, right? Doing some of that. I haven't even got my fan brush involved. My fan isn't even involved yet.
Now, if you had some questions that you
Yes.
wanted to ask about, how you were progressing, or you wanted to share your picture or connect up with other people, is there a group where you could do that?
We have a group on Facebook. It is curated. There's no politics, no religion, no nudes. Not that I don't support a human's right to do all those things in art. Of course I do.
Hmm.
But it makes people fight and be crazy with each other. So we do curate it. Posts are pre-approved. And it's just a great place to share your paintings, your tutorials from the show, and know that you're going to be treated with respect and treated with support.
Mhm.
Crazy proposition these days, I know. I'm just carrying this down a little bit, even though I know I'm going to be kind of painting a lot of chair over this. I do want to just carry this down some. I can easily do some detail work around the chair,
Mm-hmm.
but this kind of nice long continuity is tough to have if you don't get it in. Plus, this dark color will be a nice background for the chair. Interestingly enough. Pretty good. Now I'm going to rinse out, and that's pretty tough because these brushes get so wet. Oh my gosh, y'all, they get so wet. They really do. I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue over to my quinacridone. Some white into it. This makes a different purple than the dioxazine.
Hmm.
And we'll just add it. We're going to really be a little more colorful. You want your paintings, I think, especially these big boys, to feel, do you remember that song, More Human Than Human? You want
Yes,
them
I
to be
do.
more painting than painting.
By Rob Zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do remember that song.
Well, I don't know. You're so, funky with your funk. I don't know. I don't know how hard you rock, sir. Actually, I do. I've been here a minute. I do know exactly how hard he rocks. And as we all saw last night, I'm not the musical one going, how many strings does a guitar have?
I don't know. As a few.
It's a very Homer Simpson moment for me. No.
There's a couple of strings.
There's a few. It can be fun to pull a little blue into this sort of pulled down, out of focus background. It can be.
Laura has a good question.
Hi, Laura. We have a good answer.
Is it okay to use rubbing alcohol to dissolve the dried paint on your paintbrushes?
Yes. It is perfectly okay and sometimes necessary.
Okay.
So the trick is I generally create a jig so the filaments that are solidified with brushes up to maybe just here on a ferrule are submerged in the alcohol, and I give that a 10-minute soak, and it's a rinse with hot water and soap, and then back in until all the paint is out, and then I go through with the pin if I have to get all of it out of the ferrule so it doesn't blow out your brush. If you go too deep, a lot of these places just don't use a great glue, and it will break down from the rubbing alcohol. But at that point, just re-glue it. It's just, you're fine.
It's something to know most of the modern glues that you're going to find in consumer goods are fairly soft, so they will soften in alcohol or fingernail polish, or a lot of those household solvents will just dissolve the glue. So be very careful when you get that into the ferrule.
Don't do acetone.
Yeah, acetone will dissolve the glue.
Just dissolve your synthetic brushes. Like, it'll melt them.
And so you really have to be careful with synthetic glues. And it has a lot to do with the reduction of hazardous material, where they try to make things be safer. And glue and paint are two of those areas where they were really did some work. And glue, especially in the production process, it is not as sticky, but much safer.
Definitely get everything out of this brush as much as you can. Put it to the side. I'm going to stand back and look at this and sip my coffee and contemplate my choices in life.
Back and think to yourself
about my life choices. Actually, I like that right now.
What are you doing over there? Where'd you go? You have to come back because there's no one here.
No,
and it's
I
just
don't
an
have to
empty
come back.
studio.
I have to look at my painting.
You did.
All right, now I'm going to actually use Hog today. This is a number 6 Simply Simmons Hog brush. I got this at Michael's. I'm just saying, I got great fans, but I'd like to show you that you can find fan brushes elsewhere. You can. I know sometimes it feels like one cannot, but one can and might want to. I don't know. I'm going to mist my paint palette because, frankly, it's drying up. A little magenta into my purple.
So, Katie's got a good question.
All right, Katie.
And I totally understand this because
I'm going to make little downward strokes, guys, that are kind of. Notice they kind of zipper in, so it goes pull, 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 but there's a zippering. Okay. Asking questions, sir.
Okay. What would you recommend to start practicing on if you didn't have the confidence to jump onto the canvas surface?
They make paper for acrylic. It's pretty inexpensive. I'm more familiar with Michael stock. I'm not a representative of them. I'm just more familiar with it. I know Strathmore and Michael's has an acrylic paper. I think Fabriano makes some papers you can paint acrylic on for sure. If you're in the group, when we do our group lives, because we have exclusive group lives, we did a whole thing about how to prep paper, like whatever paper you have for acrylic painting. But I would say paper initially.
So, and I'm reading between the lines. It sounds like Katie's having trouble getting the confidence to start that first painting.
It's hard though. It's scary.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do you these materials, they feel expensive, and there's this sort of feeling of, I don't know, pass fail.
Like you could mess something up.
Yeah, you do. You feel like you could. Notice how the fan brush is coming in and creating some diagonal texture to the overall patterning. I'll come in with light colors on occasion. I'll be breaking up these colors a bit and being pretty darn colorful back here. Especially to about this range where it's going to be a little out of focus, a little diffused. Which is, this brush is super set up for. If you want to know more about fan brushes, we did a whole fan brush video, guys. You've never seen them, and you're like, I don't know about those crazy brushes. If you need a great fan, we make one, Art Sherpa fan. But you can see that I'm not trying to just push you on my fan, even though I'm a fan of my fan. And I am a fan of my fan. Now I'm just enjoying my time here.
I get it. Katie is
you may be pulling a stool in if it goes long enough.
That's okay.
Hi, Katie.
She was saying, she's definitely having trouble getting that confidence to start the first one.
Do something small. They make tiny, tiny canvases. Do small ones, right? And then hang those on your wall. Like, you can do little collections, and if you do squares, you can hang them up as a bigger collection, together, and you can do little paintings to get to your bigger paintings. There's lots of movement there.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I love you. I know where you live.
I inhaled my coffee. It's not something you should do.
This is going to be one pee break and definitely a few cups of coffee.
I have some different stuff for our break.
Do you?
I do. I'm gonna work on getting it ready.
I'm so excited. I really like this.
I don't know if you should be excited.
I don't know. I like new things. This is just a wonderful feeling to do. It'll be so pretty with the wicker hat and the chair. My paper is so purple over here right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's so purple. Like, and I'll come through with dark. You just gotta, you're layering it up. You're creating diffuse line and density, but you still want to have values and contrast to the space. I could even do with a bigger fan. I really could. This is a pretty big fan.
It is.
The thing is that sometimes you want to be able to get detail, but that's going to be closer up on the viewing space, closer to the field of focus. That'll be what's in focus. If you look at this, the chair and the foreground is a little out of focus a bit, and then that space around the chair, which is kind of for middle, is sharp focus, and then back into the back is out of depth focus as well. So it makes you kind of focus your eye into that space. That's a thing the photographer did. It's a thing that photographers, kind of almost helped artists do in a sense, because they were able to, playing with their instrument, help us tune ours. Just getting in here. A little Naples yellow in there.
Whoops. I was on the wrong screen. My gosh.
It happens.
I just left everybody there on the wrong screen for a second because I was adjusting something.
There's always a workout on the shoulder. Let's see, we're just pulling this in.
I have so many screens over here that sometimes I'll look at the wrong one.
Yeah.
And I'll be
You're
like,
I don't even know where I am anymore.
I was adjusting the audio meters, which are on another little screen, because I wanted to make sure that our extra new background thing for when we go take our break was ready.
Yeah? Well, we're going to have to change water a lot this particular lesson.
Ooh, well, we can.
And have a water level change really soon. Lots of coffee. Rinse thoroughly.
Rinse thoroughly.
Try out. Pretty well. I'm going to get into my ultramarine. These little pops of color will be startling and beautiful to the eye.
Yeah.
The little blue, it doesn't seem like such a big revelation, but it really is. I like to take a little of my phthalo and a little of my ultramarine and some of this white. Because again, guys, it's for my home. Speaking of, corner you. Big canvas takes all day.
They do, but
Big
that's okay.
canvas all the way. Very involved, and then wicker's not easy, and they were going to be here for a minute. Ah. What's Are you just liking what's going on with the canvas so much?
It's looking cool.
It does. It's just a beautiful, distant, you want pops of color and things. You definitely want some continuity through everything. For sure. I'm going to mist everything again because it does get dried out in the lights.
Now, if you were going to, Melissa was asking a good question. If you didn't have a square canvas.
Yes.
And you needed to make this more rectangular.
Well, this one would be a tough one to reframe into a rectangle.
I could see that you could just like add more of
you'd have to just sort of go out with more lavender.
I can virtually do that.
You couldn't crop the image that
So you'd have to like take this one and like
lavender it up to the left. Probably I would suggest over on the right hand side.
Yeah, so you'd have to like stretch it out so it goes.
Yeah, but don't stretch your chair.
Don't stretch your chair. Just go.
Just stretch where the lavender is. I'm just taking some nice. Just thinking about what's going to be peeking through the wicker over here. Rinsing out thoroughly. You can see my paper towels really taking damage. All right.
So
I'm going to take some of this Naples yellow, I think, over to my green.
This is very nice. Very large picture.
Let's see how this registers in.
All right, I'm going to go check it out.
In the space.
Ooh.
Pops a little green. Might be happening in the. And you can see that there's some, I get some aid by the craziness of the brush. He's my friend. Oh, you put some brighter green back.
Trying to see what you got going on over there in the little side.
It's just fun to put in some green, right? I just don't want colors to be present on the surface that aren't represented around the sides is all it is.
Now, Kaylee was asking about your mister bottle. It seems to put out a finer mist than hers.
If you have a regular, that squeech, 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 that does a large particulate drop. The one I have is a micro mister. They used to have it like for birds and stuff, but now they just have them on Amazon and they're not particularly pricey. I'm adding a lot more yellow. I'm just kind of popping in those little bits of interesting greenery. Enjoying that. Also, I'm enjoying how like this brush is just like, oh, I can't take it anymore. It's just going, no, you're so abusive. There we go. This is going to be gorgeous on the wall. Really pretty on the wall. Big florals have big impact. You know, sometimes it can be really hard to make a living as an artist, but there's these topics that you have that you can get into that will feed you in the lean times. Big florals,
Yeah.
you know, people can relate to them, and I like that. I'm gonna get a little more paper towel out and examine where we're at, and maybe
Yeah.
I think I've got a pop of pink, but I think the next details I kind of want the chair in for. I think this is where I want to have it for the gridding.
Yeah.
And then we'll get more and more details in, but I just want at least this amount of background thought into things. So when we put a more considered background in there, more considered objects, and when I say considered, like more completely painted, not just really painted that. Because what we've been doing is just really painting. We've been going, but like later we're going to want to go louder. So kind of a different sensibility between those two. So can we coffee up and change our water and then come back and meet everybody?
We can totally do that.
Okay, let's do that.
Would you be up for that? Okay.
I would be.
All right. I'll see you in just, guys. Let me see if this will work.
Okay. everybody. We are back. Fresh water is acquired. Coffee has been freshened up. I've stood in front of the AC for a couple of seconds and we're ready to chalk grid. Now, I'm going to be using the Dritz chalk tool. This is actually, believe it or not, for sewing. And I'm going to use our regular T-square. I guess I have a left-handed T-square, which is sort of funny, but I do. And every 2 inches, I'm going to go ahead and make a mark. And that matches the grid that we provided on the page. So hopefully, if you've done a good job measuring out your count by 2 skip counting, you'll be doing pretty well there. And I'll go ahead and really lift this up. So I don't really need the whole grid in, but I find that if I don't put it in, then I get lost. So I'm just going to put it in then. My painting is dry, but it's still a little bit soft. So my grid marks are going to be real soft, guys, because I want to be able to remove it easily. And if I press hard, I'm not going to be able to. This is just chalk in a tool that I can sharpen. It's a tailor's chalk tool, what they call it, I think.
Oh, Karen sends lots of art support.
Thank you,
She sends
Karen.
some
You
bubble
can blow
support
bubbles.
here. It says, art, hugs, and love. Thank you for creating this happy place.
You're very welcome, Karen.
Thank
you
you.
for being part of my happy place.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when the paint's not thoroughly dry, it doesn't necessarily take the chalk that well. So I may hit this a little more with the hairdryer. I don't want it to be warm because it softens the paint.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it to be bone dry and cool.
And that's just, again, to make sure that as you're painting your next layers, you want them to not be sticky and tear up the bottom one. So especially, now with this chalk tool, it will, what was she doing? It will make sure the chalk tool will pull on that, what do you call it? The paint surface, and can actually pull up the paint. So just make sure that when you're doing your surface, when you're going to draw on your surface, that you fully dry the surface so that you don't drag the chalk across it and tear up the paint. Man, that was super hard for me to get out. Hold on, let me unmute you.
Are you unmuting me? That is very hard to explain this whole chalking process. You can tell when you have it definitely correct because it will offload to your canvas fairly well. Now, acrylic is plastic, which is what makes carbon papers and some of the transfer materials so challenging for this. Oh, are you taking pity on me? I don't know. I think it really messes with our sound, though. All right. Sorry for any issues with our sound we're about to cause. Mama be hot. When she gets hot, she gets cranky. Oh, my goodness. You get to a certain point in life, you just don't want to be hot in public because then everybody starts assuming you're having a hot flash. And you're like, no, it's just an oven in this room. Sometimes women are just hot. Sometimes the AC is just not on. Sometimes. Just making sure that I have enough of this that I can kind of see it. If I need to, I can pull more chalk out. I don't need to worry about the last 3 lines too much. Now I'm going to come across the top again. Skip counting. I'll go to this line. And I'll go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Flip the ruler over. Oh, good. It landed on an 8, 6, 4, 2. So that way I know the skip counting that way is good.
Okay.
This T-square is not expensive.
No.
You should not spend a lot of money on this particular one. Some T-squares are expensive and are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They're metal. They are tooled for engineering. I don't know. They got some sort of engineers. This ruler helps me know what future girders will do kind of thing about them. This one does not have that. You wouldn't want to build a bridge with it. But for the purposes of this wicker chair today, it's excellent. And even if for any reason I had to go back and paint over any of my grid, it's easy enough to do because I have so much background already worked in. So many of those sort of layers that you've got to get in for a really gorgeous painting, those are in here. There is a traceable. If you're doing a small canvas like an 8x8 or a 10x10, you could just print it out and use that. Super good traceable too.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a 20x20 sheet of paper for me to print out today. And I didn't feel like tiling
No.
little sheets of paper together and making sure that the math worked out. You can do that though. All right. When you have your grid in, you would take your reference. I have a little grid reference right here. And what you do is you just draw what you see in each individual square. So if this is one square down, and just pay attention to the lines of how it goes down the piece. It takes a minute, but the grid is a great way to help you freehand in a little more accurately anything that you've got going on. From 3 down here is where the seat comes in. Definitely want to have that nice little curve there. There we go. Start to curve up.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I was disciplining children who were playing tag upstairs.
Did you tell them to go watch TV with that harsh discipline of yours?
There was definitely a threat on their mortal existence.
No.
But, because freeze tag, that's what you should do in the hall upstairs over mom and dad.
Definitely.
They didn't think that was going to be
such a big deal.
No, they were totally shocked. They were like, what do you mean we can't play tag?
So it's so interesting because you look at this and you're like, wow, that is just 2 squares. It feels like it should be 3 spatially, but it's 2. And that's why sometimes it's nice to have this stuff in. And I just go square by square. And that's going to help me get the shape and feel of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, for sure, the hat would be one for me. But thanks to this system, I'm going to get through. I know I get quiet when I'm thinking hard, but that's just, I'm doing what you're doing, which
You're
is
working
I'm
that out?
using my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
John can chat with you while I'm thinking.
Can I?
Yeah, you entertain them while I'm thinking.
I came so
Otherwise,
unprepared.
we're going to end up with one of those rose scenarios, and we don't want that.
Just following those little squares all the way around.
It's really what the game is follow the little squares.
Make sure that you just count them down. The shape's in there, follow it along. It's a little time consuming and it requires a little focus, but it's not particularly hard. This is something that's been done for a few thousand years, I think.
Yeah, it really is how they got in most of the stuff.
So, I mean,
look at the Sistine Chapel, it's cartooning and this kind of nonsense.
Yeah,
so.
Michelangelo used a lot of this kind of technique.
Good enough for him, good enough for you.
Yep. Leonardo da Vinci, big fan of the gridding method. Used, these are folks that definitely used math and science and broke things down into smaller pieces. A lot of sculpture uses a very, very similar technique to this, where you can break things down using water glasses or different grids.
I love the sculpture one.
Yep. So yeah, there's a lot of ways of approaching this, and none of them are cheating. These are all methods to assist an artist in their goal. Assist. There's a T there. Assist the artist in their goal, and that is to get an image that someone else out to enjoy, or maybe not an image, maybe just concept. One could say some art is performance based, and the act of shredding your art is as much the act of creating your art.
In some sense, right? Don't shred your art. It upsets your family, I have to tell you. Mine always complains about it.
If you could do it moments after a live auction where it was just sold for millions of dollars,
okay, that guy should definitely shred his art. He should. That's Banksy. We are referring to Banksy, who did shred his art right after it sold for millions of dollars.
Yep.
But that's the kind of art he do.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever used a projector?
Yes.
They're
incredibly useful. I don't consider them cheating because you really still got to be able to paint it in. So
is it Vallejo?
Vallejo
used
a lot of projectors.
I can't remember all of them, but there are others too. Bruce Eagle used projection with his airbrush.
He certainly did.
And totally was part of his practice. He broke down paintings. But his stuff was photorealistic a lot of times. So he would bring in an actual lizard and then project the lizard up when he wanted to make lizard skin on another person. So it was really cool, his process of using the projection in unconventional ways to get the effect that he was desiring.
Yeah, it really is. He had a very interesting process, in my mind.
Mm-hmm. He's very and his art abode was really cool. It's like what you would think a airbrush artist's place would be like.
It was the correct kind.
Well, it was cool. By his fireplace was his stack of amps because he played a bunch of Beatles cover stuff, and so he had a bunch of really cool old vintage amps over there and a bunch of cool guitars, and then there was this massive collection of TV and movie memorabilia from all the movies and things he's worked on and special effects and stuff. And then there's just wall-to-wall pictures, and then just stacked everywhere is airbrush stuff. And there were probably 3 airbrush tables with little compressors that ran next to him. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was pretty. Keep going, babe. I still need you.
So
this is where it's gonna get me, guys. I can tell you right now. In the Wicker.
So what she's doing is just going through and following the square by square, making sure that everything that was in each square is translated, transferred, sort of, to the surface in question. So the cool thing is that this will allow you to transfer this to pretty much anything, whether it's a wall or the side of a van.
It really does.
Mm-hmm. If you put this on the side of a van, I would definitely like to see it. I'm a big fan of van art. Just as a side note, any van painters out there, I'm interested. So,
are you interested in them van painters?
I am, especially like if it's got a wizard and a dragon on it, I'm super into it. So, how much do you got left in there?
Oh, just stop. I'm here for a minute.
Oh, really?
You keep talking. I'm sorry. I know you don't love talking, but you're going to have to.
I just didn't know what all you had to do. You got to trace
so
all those.
Many.
You got to draw all those little lines?
I've got to at least get some of the ribs perspectives in.
Those are a lot of ribs. You're going to put all those up here?
My wicker chair may be somewhat edited compared to the original wicker chair.
It may be the feeling of wicker.
No, it'll be wicker, but it just may not be as much wicker.
It's less wicker.
I guess it's... That moment when you're going to like...
So, I noticed a lot of folks were just sort of anecdotally talking about how it is difficult to objectively know your own skill level.
Oh, goodness gracious. And you should be constantly challenging your own skill level, too. You should never be leaving yourself alone, either.
So
you should always be taking on projects that make you just a little bit concerned.
Yeah. I would say be less concerned with the number or the quantification of the skill when you're trying to figure out where you're at. And instead, look at the material. Say, am I comfortable doing what they're looking at here? And then when you find that place where you're comfortable, dive in there. And don't worry about the skill level that it says it is. Just engulf yourself with that knowledge and just get after it. And then you'll figure out, then you're going to find sort of in retrospect that you have a much better view of where your skill level is. Cinnamon's like, I hope he's saying something accurate.
I got to do what I got to do here, babe.
She's just drawn.
And if he rushes me along, you know what? Y'all will suffer.
I'm not rushing.
So don't let him do it. Y'all will suffer. You're the ones who'll pay. No. Nobody's going to pay. Nobody's going to pay.
Yeah.
Nobody gets punished. We just want to get the sense of certain things being afoot here. Really feels like it's just so hard to believe that that's only this. Now here's the one that's going to just get me.
And this is something.
Is these wicker lines? I'm not ready for these at all.
Man, I totally see this with you a lot. Alyssa talks about this. I'm struggling with the magic book, and I was confident going in. And boy, that happens. I can say I've watched
all the time.
Lots of artists. Me myself, I get into projects all the time, but this is like par for the course for me. If I don't feel in over my head as soon as I get into a project, I'm not doing something right.
I'm going to wait to put these in until a second from now because, dude, I got a lot. I have a lot to think about.
You got a couple things there.
I have a few things to think about for sure. I'm going to put my black out now.
Okay. You're going to change your...
Yeah. I'm going to put my black out now. And I'm going to kind of get a very dark chocolatey brown color going. And hopefully... Did okay gritting the chair.
It looks okay.
Hopefully. We'll find out very soon.
Only you have to live with the chair.
I'm going to use a big brush. This is a 24 Raphael Textura. Keep in mind, this is a 10 Art Sherpa, so these are not numerically related to any actual factual size information. That's not what that is.
They're arbitrary to the brush manufacturer.
They really are.
What's interesting is sometimes they use similar nomenclature, but by no means did they consult with each other.
So I'm going to put in the dark value that I'm actually going to be building the wicker on here. And then
Alyssa says, cinnamon has prevented me from quitting multiple times.
look, we all get into projects that we want to do that are, for whatever reason, maybe they're more challenging, but any painting project that you're into, the result of the painting notwithstanding has nothing to do with whether or not the painting was a success.
Yeah.
And that's the hard thing to really understand. I'm doing a dark color here. What I'm going to do, I'll come back with the texture, with the strokes that create the patterns of the wicker, and the wicker will pop up. It's crazy. You can paint every wicker thing that you see if that pleases you. It won't be necessary. I think.
Good question.
Hmm.
So
I'm
Athena
gonna get
asks,
some blue so I can really see this against my black. It's going to be black and blue this next bit. Okay.
So Athena asks, why does oil have so many more whites than acrylics? And
well, one, because they're allowed to.
now that's
Lead doesn't really go great as an acrylic white. It doesn't work well into the emulsion.
so that has to do with metals.
Yeah.
And that is that acrylic doesn't suspend metals as well as oil does. So any whites that are based on a metal are heavier and harder to suspend or disperse. So there can be more challenges in creating an acrylic paint than there is in an oil paint. And just typically speaking, you find more variety of color in oil than you do in acrylic, simply because there's been a few hundred years of development of colors in that.
Yeah, and a lot of times acrylic painters are perceived as cheap and not as into their craft.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not always given as many options as the oil artists. Try not to be offended by it. It's just the business.
Yeah, it's just,
It's just a perception. There's these weird perceptions in the art world of what things are and aren't. And sometimes we, the artists, are subjugated to those things. Now, my laying this out here doesn't mean that I won't stand back, look at it, and move it or change it in some way if it irks me. Probably with greater ease than I did that guitar string last night.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll notice I'm just using a couple of deep values to build a basic construct of my wicker chair.
Now, if you're looking for a wide variety of colors, I know that both Sennelier and Golden offer a
Holbein.
And Holbein, yeah, they offer a wide variety of traditional colors that you would look for in an artist palette.
Yeah, I would say Holbein has nearly the most, possibly. So companies you would look at for Chevron, Holbein, Sennelier, Royal Talons has a lot.
Yeah, Royal Talons.
And PBO has a shocking amount of product. It would just blow your mind.
Grand D'Ache has a ton of pigments. I just don't know what their paint's like.
They don't do any acrylic paint, though.
Yeah, they have a ton of great pigments, though.
Yeah. Some companies are about color and some are not. And you'll get kind of a sense of that as you go.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that, pigment houses are, man, that's some Indiana Jones stuff there.
It really is.
But the real deal, not like,
like a shocking amount. You're like, whoa, really? Yeah, like the pigment hunters are a big deal. They have to go all over the world. They have to deal with a variety of cultures and distributors and different social conditions. It's amazing what a pigment person has to do. And when they're trying to find pigments and source pigments, and then new pigments are very rarely discovered, which is why Yinmin blue, which actually turned out to be a pretty boring blue, visually, though it does look really a lot like manganese, which wasn't available to us anymore because of its toxicity. Suddenly, we have that in now.
Again, metals.
Metals.
Yep, metals versus minerals. They just do different things, like titanium white is an oxidized titanium flake, and lead white is a oxidized lead flake. Whereas burnt umber is burnt rocks.
Burnt rocks.
Which, I mean, technically ore is a kind of rock, but a metal and a stone are fundamentally different in their, like, you can't bang together a bunch of stone into other bigger pieces of stone. There's some different stuff on the periodic table.
I'm going to pull out my yellow ochre, friends, and see if it is good. If it is good, I'm going to use it on my hat. And then I'll put in some wicker side straps, and we'll be making some headway here. Getting in the underpainting of the chair. And it's a big boy, isn't it?
It is one. Are you using alizarin crimson?
I am not using alizarin crimson today. I'm using yellow ochre and some Mars black just to create a base for the hat. The hat is, kind of a white, but it has a real strong yellow cast. So this is a nice way to start to get that in. It's going to be so pretty. Now, here's the risk. So, like, if I do this and I don't like it, my family won't let me, like, not hang it up. So I really have to make sure I like it, because they'll still hang it. Because they're crazy like that. And you are. Paintings tend to be wonderful, though, so you
I like them.
Kind of enjoy it and roll with it as you can. Oh, it's going to be cool.
It is cool.
I have wanted to paint this a really long time.
Wicker. Man, you just committed to it.
I did. I know. And wicker is just one of those things where, depending on what you want to put into the painting, it could be, if you want to be like real expressive, it could be barely anything. You could just be like, chur, 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 and just a couple of lines for wicker. Or if you have you're like, no, I must commit to all the things. I'm going to just add that name and come around here. Then, you might have a bit more going on.
Ooh, Cheryl's got a good question.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, so she would like to paint a painting for her front porch. Now, it's under the awning, but what kind of paint would you suggest for that?
I would suggest acrylic. I would get professional brand, and I would allow it to completely dry and get a varnish that has the strongest UV anti-yellowing protection that you can. And I would varnish my painting for the outdoors. Keep in mind, if you're on canvas, it can mold if it gets moist. So that's just something to just keep track of, is the canvas getting wet? Is it getting moist? I knew a guy that did beautiful outdoor paintings, and he painted on corrugated plastic. He would just create a stretched canvas out of this plastic, kind of like this. He would just cut the plastic. He actually stretch it exactly like this. And then he would use kind of like an oil-based thing, and then also varnish outside. But I would do acrylics.
I have some anecdotal stuff on that.
You do, because we had to do that one piece.
So having lived in Houston for the last, 8 years or so, maybe 7 years, we had the chance to leave some paintings outside in the garage by accident.
Well, and then also we did that outdoor public works.
We did, but what I would say is that there was it was like some sort, it had like 4 stripes of paint on a white background. It was like one of those, I'm going to show people what these different paints do when I smear across them type of studies. It wasn't an actual painting, but it had paint on it. It was like a canvas that you painted up,
And then said, no, I hate it.
And then you left it outside in the garage behind something for like 5 years.
Okay. I think that was one of the ones I'm like, I don't love it.
Yeah. And what I could say is that when I took it out and dusted it off, it had been in the humidity and the rain and the torturous of my garage. It looked just fine. So those acrylic paints, they do good.
They do. Look at that. So now we got a hat blocked in.
You got the hat blocked.
We got a hat blocked in. That's pretty awesome, right?
It came together pretty quickly.
That didn't go too bad. Now I'm going to take my number 4 round, and I'm going to grab my little picture here and see if I can at all.
What can you do, Sherpa?
Oh, gosh. Because it's going to maybe change a couple of things in my wicker that I've already laid out, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm creating the dark value that everything's going to build up from. The thing to remember is, like, if I've got 2 little wickers here, then there's a rib here and a rib here. This is wicker construction, which I am not a master of. I am an artist. I am just observing the nature of wicker construction. And I do want to have that feeling of the open chair. One of the things that attracted me to this piece, actually. Now, oh my gosh, what happens here just makes me mentally crazy, but I'm going to do my best to follow the patterning that one kind of sees and hopefully catch it somewhat accurately. Even if one isn't catching it that accurately. Trying to get the crissy-cross wickerness. At some point, I will give up on building a wicker chair thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
And just generalize. Oh, good.
Look, there you going.
Kind of works out.
It made it. It definitely looks like wicker.
I kind of almost built it
You did.
correctly, almost.
You made it. I mean, like, it passes.
Some wicker muster.
That's right.
All right. Wickerish. Gonna wicker it just a little bit. All right. Gonna get some white and blue. Talk a little bit about my jar here.
Mm.
Just purple this back up. I use blue because it'll work well with the purple.
Yeah.
And blend well. I'm still using this big giant Raphael number 24 brush. Just like, I'm just gonna do it. Because at some point, there's that first layer, you just got to get the paint on.
Yeah.
The object. I get to rest from a minute. You know what? I probably need to microwave my coffee because I've been painting and not drinking my coffee.
Oh, man. Okay, so you have to let this layer dry. Is that what you're saying? So
Can we do it right back and I'll go microwave my coffee?
You're going to turn around and look at everybody in the front for a second?
Okay, I can do that too.
You give them the little bubbles?
That's bubbles. Because look where we're at, guys. We're about the halfway mark.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not
It's
bad.
big. His hat, his wicker chair, his things are drawn in. Background's in. Stuff has been done.
Okay.
Edges are painted.
So we're going to take a little break. Is that what you
Just
think?
long enough to heat my coffee.
Okay. Well, I'll we'll
Okay,
be right.
We'll be right back.
Okay, I think that we're starting to get back in there. Oh, look there.
Hey,
She's putting out
guys.
some.
So
Some
we're
paint.
resetting the paint a little bit, and that's because as I paint in these long sessions and you have any kind of air conditioning of any kind going and any of that happening, what can go on is that your paint starts to gum and not perform well. And since I'm on a live show, it's nice to have it perform well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a preference that I have.
You kind of need that.
Kind of a preference that I have. So I'll put it out. We'll go back over the palette again, just in case you're coming in late. Not that there was an on-time process for the day by any means. We're just saying, and we'll miss this again. So hopefully it will extend it. We're going to be back into some of the lavender and some of those objects. And then as we're going, we'll also wicker up. We're just letting the wicker kind of think about what it's done. Needs to think
Wicker.
about what it's done.
What have you done?
It's been bad. And think about what it's done in the corner. Yes,
Gonna-
it can.
Go sit in the corner by itself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that we've gone. This wicker's gone bad. We need
That's good wicker. It's going to be pretty in the room.
to go find the good wicker. and say,
I
You're
can't
such a
remember.
good
Did I put out Cad right at the beginning?
I don't know. We could rewind it and I could watch.
Yeah, you do that later and I'll put it out if I need it. I don't need it immediately, so I'm gonna just this right now, and then
No
if
problem.
I do, then I will. If that makes sense.
It does.
Okay. Which I said I was never gonna say again, but I did say.
Did you?
Yeah. I said I was not gonna, and here I am doing it. Okay. So we also gave everything a rinse out. All my brushes kind of got a rinse out in the sink because you can't really rinse them out in a cup the way you need to.
That's true.
And I'm going to get back into my fans. I might get into my Art Sherpa fans just because they have a sharper edge, and I don't know that I need the lines as soft. We'll see how, might actually compare the two stiffnesses, right, to what I have going on, but I still probably want the bigger ones. So my fans are made for heavy body paint, and they don't turn into the little four fingers of death. You know, when you get them wet and they go, they hold their shape. So it makes it really possible to use them. And I'm going to get some purple and some definitive white on there. Look at that. We can see that, can't we? Some blue like up on the corner, and let's put some defined. See how that is for defined. Little bits of flower.
Oh, I'm going to say thank you to Stephanie B. She says,
Stephanie B, how are you, sweetie?
She says, thank you for being my ray of sunshine today, and send some Sherpa support your way.
I appreciate that, sweetheart. Thank you.
Thank you.
And actually, you have to be more specific now with the Stephanie B's.
We have many
because we have
bees.
two of them in the same region.
We do.
I'm liking that. So you can kind of see that gives a more hard-edged effect.
This is the Stephanie B that likes to rock.
That doesn't help me. I don't think you know the Stephanies well enough. I think this is what we're learning about you, is you don't know the Stephanies well enough.
Well, maybe there's different kinds of rocks that we're talking about.
But they both rock. Does this Stephanie have a chicken?
I don't
or
know
does
which.
she have a doodle?
I don't know which Stephanie has a chicken.
I don't think you know the Stephanies.
Apparently not.
Stephanies, I would object to John not knowing you.
Look, I know that one Stephanie has a predilection to painting and hiding rocks.
Okay, Stephanie, yes.
That was
Rock
the Stephanie.
Hi, Rock Stephanie.
This is me entertaining
By the way,
myself.
they both also do that. So that was
on her
also
show.
not a good descriptor.
Okay.
So
maybe.
this is definitely giving me a hard edge effect that I like.
Yes, I like it. It's a very good. Very good.
It's very good. Just enjoying painting that and getting that sort of result done.
Trying to get those around the corner.
Not that the corner needs one, but you know. And you can see, honestly, a lot of my grid's getting painted out as I go.
Yeah. Now, is that okay? Is
Yeah,
that gonna hurt anything?
super okay.
The chalk won't hurt the paint?
Chalk won't hurt the paint. And again, just creating that feel and texture of what's going on.
Just adding a little bit of
Yeah, I just want to make sure that
flavor.
there's sort of a synergy.
That's really, yeah. You
Just
seem to pick up.
playing with the blues and the purples and creating kind of a hard, defined texture or thought out there is just a nice thing to do. And the blue, in this space will really pop.
Mm,
So we come down here, I want to make sure I just want the colors to be around the sides so that we're, kind of enjoying that as it's happening.
while you're working on the texture that you're adding there,
Mm-hmm.
could you talk a bit? Let me come over this way. I see what you got going on. Could you
Should I
talk
talk
a bit?
about
So, so if you stepped away from painting for a while and you were having a hard time picking it back up, you just couldn't find that. It's just, it's a little daunting to come back to it. What would you say? What advice would you have to, maybe make it a little easier to come back to something that's, you had to step away from for a while?
Well, what happens is sometimes, so you step away and you were in a stage in your painting when you stepped away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe when you come back, you're not in that stage. Maybe you're feeling like you're not as skilled as you were or feeling as confident as you were. And you get a little overwhelmed to feel like you're going to start over.
Right.
Like what's going to happen? Am I going to remember what I knew? Is it going to be easy? Is it going to be hard? You get in your own head, right? Easy to get in your own head.
Mm-hmm.
It is super easy to get in your own head. And what you've got to do is realize that your first thing, pick something that really speaks to you, that you want to work for. And then also release that expectation that you're probably putting on yourself, that you be perfect and that everything, everything's amazing and that you'll be exactly where you were, because you will. You will absolutely be where you are. It is a bit like riding a bike and then it'll come back. But if you haven't used that part of yourself for a second, it can just take us, a minute to gain your sea legs. That's all it is. Just takes a minute sometimes to get a sense of being very playful with the color here is what I'm doing. That's fun for me. Taking a little bit of that Naples yellow into that quinacridone mix I had over here.
Yeah.
Look at that pop. Popping some of those colors. Because these flowers can be electric. You can use color theory. You can enjoy your space and play with that so that it's better than nature. Not that anything is really better than nature, but the way that you can talk about nature sometimes can do some things that nature cannot.
Ooh, I've not had to say this name yet, so
Okay.
I hope I get to say it right. And she sent over a lot of bubble support, so it was kind of cool.
Thank you. I'm ready to sip some coffee.
Are you?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's sip some coffee.
So-
Look at where we're at in the project, in our journey.
This is where
Turn around here.
This is one of those names where you get a bunch of consonants and then a couple vowels, and you have to figure it out. But
Yeah.
it's Chloe, I think. Chloe. Chloe.
Chloe, for giving me this reason to stop and drink my coffee halfway through my far too big for YouTube project. You helped me decorate my house, and maybe you decorate it too.
But
When
she
we get
says,
it all done, I'll post a picture up of how it looks on the wall.
Oh, for
with
sure.
the throw pillows, which was, of course, the impetus for the entire room was some throw pillows. Because
So,
I'm a woman who can be directed entirely by throw pillows.
well, she sent a message for you too.
What'd she say?
She said, "You're such an inspiration, and I thank you for giving me the happiness during these hard times." Heart, 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 heart. And that's echoed by a lot of folks, from Lily and Mary and Mona and Athena. And I see lots of folks saying all these kinds of these lovely wishes. So thank you,
I'm
guys.
so sorry. It is hard times right now. This is a really tough time for everybody, and I'm sorry everyone is going through it just deeply from the bottom of my heart.
Mm-hmm.
It has been rough, and I know that's not fun. So I am very glad that Art is helping it all, and we're happy to come and do this. Remember, it's Wednesday nights on Facebook. We watercolor.
Mm-hmm.
Friday night, we do an easy, groovy painting. And Saturday, we take on something that we should never do on YouTube.
And patrons and
Thank you.
all you guys out there that are coming and joining us in these lives, thank you, thank you, thank you. You make this possible, really.
You guys
being
really
here,
do.
you supporting Cinnamon, you make it possible. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am so happy to be here. I'm getting to use my little brush today, and it's doing a good job. So you can see how against the softness of the bristles, what's happening there, and that's kind of enjoyable.
The softness
kind of
of
fun.
the bristles.
I mean, with like little pops of pink. What I'll find is I'll get into a space and I'll get into a color and I'll go, oh, that is doing a nice thing right here. Let's continue on with that. And you'll enjoy that. And you'll be like, oh, yeah, do more of that. Color, I like what you do for me here. And the color goes, well, I'm here to help. So if you feel like it's a good thing, by all means, enjoy. Now, in this space, I feel like, I've got some really gorgeous little pops of green, and I want to talk about that green a little differently now. So I'm going to take my pure phthalo with just a little bit of cad yellow, and I'm going to do little touches of these little more defined leaves. Touching up. Little spaces. It's a brighter green. So it's going to hold and really hold its space. I'm not going to take it much past this area. Because I want that, but I want it to be in a zone. This reminds me of the little girl in lavender. This would go really well with her. I should frame her and put her up in the room if we can find her again.
I'll have to go take that out.
I think she's like packed up, but would love to pull her out and pull her into this. So you'll find that the deep phthalo will give you an effect, and then as you add yellow, gives you another effect.
Now, can you give me a demonstration of that stroke? Here, hold on. I'm going to zoom in and.
Mm-hmm. So the stroke is you load the brush, right? So we get some yellow and some green in there. Just on the tip. If you touch lightly, you get a soft mark. And if you touch and pull. A good stroke to practice. If you have not, I highly recommend it. And whenever you're painting with purples, it's wonderful to have some great pops of green. They complement each other quite well. So you guys seen that happen? It's just a round brush. This is a number 4 round. It's got a nice point. It does. I can get into my maples here too and get some. This green will have a slightly different feel to it. And And I'll play with that to create little, like, glistening. It'll feel like a little light glistening on leaves. Really enjoying this piece. I tend to not be too stressed when stuff happens to my art. I do see it as a consumable good. And I will, often come in, going, well, that's very replaceable because in some sense it is.
Mm.
Even if something happens to it, I'm just paint it again. Now I'm going to get back into my hogs for just a second through here. And interestingly enough, with my phthalo green, and I'm going to come up and mimic the leaf texture that I did in the rest of the painting with this deep green again. I think the 6 might even be too big down here.
Yeah.
I thought a brush could be too big in the space, but it's not giving me the contained experience I would want. And let's definitely turn this to the side so that whatever we're doing down here is happening on the bottom. I have to tell you, when you're doing these, and if you're on an easel like I am, the bottom will end up having little areas of, let's get right under here, because we know we're going to come in front with some bright purple, but I will have to, after the show, touch that up for sure. Because the paint won't have cured. In fact, sometimes I like to leave these on their side for a day or two and then finish those areas up so that the paint is hard cured.
Mm.
I'm just adding a little bits of, this will be in the deep bushes. It's just a little bit of greenery and texture that will be popping some of the more thought out up front. Little bits of flowers up. We'll rinse that out while we're having a thought. Let me dry this off.
Okay.
Or I'll just accept that I'm repainting it later. I'm going to have to repaint it later because that's wet. So we won't bother doing that again. We're going to say, whatever we do down here, you should carry it to the bottom. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it after the show when I know it's going to be able to hold.
Mm.
So while this is having a bit of a rusty rest.
Oh, okay. Let me just slow everybody down. Make sure that they understood what I just clicked.
Oh, what'd you just click?
What you're saying is you're going to paint the bottom of the gallery wrapped surface after it's done drying.
Yeah, you really have to. And I would suggest that you do too. You want to kind of get all this done, let it cure a couple of days, and then flip it to the side and get the bottom. And that should prevent the paint from peeling off.
Okay. So because
it should, theoretically. We're just blending some thoughts here. That's okay. You don't want to worry about it too much. Okay. I wonder what this will be like. Do I start it with a... All right, I'm going to just start it where I'm at.
All right.
I'm going to take some of my yellow. And it's going to have a little of my yellow ochre in it, and maybe... But it's still going to be white. Kind of. Now I'm going to start coming here. I have sort of thinned it a bit.
Have you ever heard of a company called Pebeo?
Pebeo.
Yeah.
Yes.
They make an okay titanium white?
They make an okay everything.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So if you just picked up a tube of titanium white and Pebeo studio acrylics,
you would be super fine. Great company.
Okay.
Lots of experimental products. Lots of everything that we love.
Shouldn't have any trouble there.
No, not at all. I'm just curving that down. Kind of creating a little messy stroke up there. Just do a zipper
Mm-hmm.
of this part of the wicker coming across. I'm not, I'm just catching the flavor and the feel. And honestly, when you look at it, it's kind of woven pretty messy too. That's okay. Layer 1, my friends.
Layer 1.
Yeah, layer 1. Ready, layer 1. Sorry.
For the painters.
Pulling that there. Getting that beginning of that going. All right. Curve this stroke a bit. Because where these are, that's where the wicker curves out. See how I feel about that from a distance. From a distance. I'm actually pretty happy with it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with it too. It's turned out pretty nice.
Oh, good, because it's going in our house.
Well, they all go in our house to some degree.
Well, honestly, guys, at this point, not that much. Okay. So I'll just go through. I'm not trying to paint every detail, even though it looks a bit like I am. I'm not. It's really not my goal. Well, looks pretty good. I want this edge to be bumpy. There we go. Wicka, 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 wicka. It's fine. Crazy.
Are you making beatboxing?
Well, if that is the full extent of it, then maybe. Now this is kind of a little S stroke that makes this little wrap here, but it's very slight. It's just there's a bit of a bend curve.
I've not seen any PBO watercolors around the house.
I don't know. I haven't, if they do watercolor, I haven't used it. They do stuff to paint on glass. They do stuff to paint on tile. They do a lot of mediums in acrylic and products in acrylic that are pretty terrific. Wicker, wicker. Wicker, 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 brr.
Who is it? Royal Talons who makes encaustic? Trying to remember.
That I don't remember off the top of my head, but my gut says yes.
Man, there's some really cool companies out there that make some very
Oh, you
interesting
mean
stuff.
encaustic paint? Several make encaustic paint.
Yeah. Well, the encaustic sticks.
Yes, several companies do encaustic sticks.
Yeah. They're rarer though. You don't see as very often.
Well, you used to see Texas Art Supply always had them in.
I just don't know anybody who works in encaustic.
A lot of artists make their own encaustic.
Yeah, well, it's tough, man. To find good variety of.
And there's not a lot of classes or instruction in encaustic.
Then how do you
That's
frame
another
it?
thing too, which is generally people get into encaustic because they got exposed to it in art school.
It's in art school, I would say it's a very cool thing to do. It's very arty. You get pigment everywhere. You got a hot plate. It
Yeah.
makes you super cool. But as soon as somebody has to collect that, oh my gosh, it is an impossible work to hang.
One of my favorite artists in Houston did encaustic on silk.
And
Really gorgeous.
it's just wet and sticky forever.
Well, when we saw it would be cured.
But I mean, most encaustic dries over centuries.
Yeah, it's not a quick dry.
It's just, even modern encaustics, it's hot wax. It's like dangerous crayons because you have raw pigment access in them,
There we
which
go.
is cool.
Getting back from a chair.
Beautiful.
As my chair comes in.
Oh, Craig says, from my dog, she loves the Intermission video and sends some bubble support love.
I
So
am going to
thank
turn
you.
around, bubble, and sip my coffee.
Are you?
I think it's still lukewarm and I can.
So I'm going to say thank you guys for hanging out during this marathon of paint that we are in. We're
We've
now
done
actually,
6
you know
hours
what?
before. This isn't even that long.
I'm not even. Guess how long we've been here? Can you imagine what this epic painting has been?
2 something right now, 2:30 right now?
2 hours and 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm like,
It's just,
not that bad.
what is encaustic? So it's
Here,
begins
while
the
I'm doing this endless white, you can explain encaustic.
encaustic. So encaustic is a form of pigment. So what it is, it's a form of art material that's like hot wax. So it's pigment and wax in an oil type carrier, and it makes for you use a hot plate to warm up the pigments, and then you apply them using a combination of oil to lubricate and help spread some of the encaustic paint, which is a wax suspend. It's made with beeswax. So ultimately, the way you make encaustic paint is you take the pigment that you want and you melt down a whole lot of beeswax, and then you try to get it to suspend in the beeswax. And it mostly does because wax will hold pretty much anything. So you can suspend, as long as you fully suspend your pigment in the wax, it won't oxidize or fade most of the time. So encaustic is one of those really cool, easy, messy, hot, oily.
It's a fun you can get into.
Yeah, but the problem is that when you go to frame or hang encaustic, it's soft for a very, very, very long time, effectively most of your life. So it has to be done either in a framing that's thick and says don't
They have
touch me.
hardeners for the wax and some new processes now, though.
Yeah, but generally you still got to put it behind glass.
No, actually, I have a bunch of friends working in caustic. There are a lot of products out there now.
Yeah.
It can accelerate. You just, I think you risk cracking.
Yes, you do. If anytime you
and
trade
some
down,
other stuff, but because traditional, you're kind of really thinking that Renaissance traditional.
that's very true. Well, I mean, which true encaustic is nothing but beeswax and pigment and a little bit of oils that help make it soft, and it's some violet oils compounds like varnish and resins, because you need to make it so that it can be sort of squishy and not
So
brittle.
true.
So those resins make it sticky and not brittle. I like the science of this stuff.
He
It's kinda interesting.
does. He's so into it right now. I can't even tell you. You can
And-
see I'm curving these strokes. On this side, I added a little bit of blue, right? Just to imply that this white is a little bit in a shadow. And we're going to play with that. The white that's tinted blue and the white that is tinted yellow, and then play them against each other. And then boom, use highlights to create a lot of drama.
Like boom. So is it possible to put acrylic behind glass?
Yes, just don't touch the glass to the acrylic.
but it's not necessary.
Not necessary. Possible if you feel like you must. If you feel you must, yes, you can.
See here.
And there are processes, but you do want to give air so the acrylic can breathe. And there are some framing practices that you have to do for that so that it is okay. And I'm just continuing to do this texture. There's really nothing to do but do the texture 3 times. Just nothing to do but that. If you want to get like a really good look.
So I just put up the spelling of that for folks.
Oh, did you?
Yep. Because it's not like acoustic, but it's very similar. It begins with E though, so it's encaustic instead of acoustic. So it's kind of similar. It'd be very easy to hear those with my chunky accent.
Yeah.
So I will enunciate the best I can.
You do what you got to do, babe.
I
We're
put
here
links.
for you.
I drop links, so that way people can just read all about it. You know?
I do know. I literally do know.
When did you start painting?
When I was a child.
You
I am very lucky. I grew up in art.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that I was very blessed with. My mom was an artist and my grandmother was an artist, and it wasn't a surprising thing or an inconceivable thing in my family to say I want to grow up and be an artist. That wasn't something that they fought against, and I know a lot of families do.
Yeah. I mean, I distinctly remember having conversations with folks saying, how will you ever make money as an artist?
Did you do that? Really?
I mean, many people, counselors, advisors.
Oh, they told you that.
Yeah.
That's right. No, well, because people that don't know anything about the industry for some reason have a lot of opinions on it.
Mm-hmm.
People don't have that many opinions about being a doctor except that they think you're going to make a lot of money. Here's a head thing. Doctors leave with ridiculous debt from medical school. They spend a long time, unless they go into one of the high sparkling money fields like plastic surgery, paying off those debts and working very hard and getting privileges. It is in working hours you can't imagine. Like, people should tell their kids, don't be a doctor. Don't. No, it's terrible job. What? But they don't. They go be a doctor. That's the job you want. It's a hard job. All you doctors in the room right now say, yeah, it's rewarding. Yeah, it's good. But work hard. Get ready. Also, absolutely, they're going to make you touch a cadaver.
Yes. Like,
there's no getting out of that.
That was really it for me. That was the whole reason why we didn't do any medical school. I was like, there be dead things here.
Yeah.
I was like, noped out of that one. And so I went to high energy physics, where there were no living people. And it was like, your choices are teach or make bombs. That's what you can do.
Teach or make bombs. Work at CERN.
Yeah. And that, I mean, do you know how many physicists are in line to work at super collider projects? Like, all of them. Like,
our favorite professor ended up in Texas because his super collider project went away.
Yeah. Dr. Jed.
Yeah. That's why he was there.
Mm-hmm.
His super collider project went bye-bye.
That's right.
Super collider project, go home.
And, it was around that time that a friend of mine was like, hey, so we're making these cool video games and we need someone like you to come over and help. Could you come? And I was like, I'm out.
You're like, I shockingly can.
I can do that job.
I can do that. So I'm just kind of gesturing in the shape and structure of the chair a lot of this gets painted out with flowers up front. So I want it there so it's peeking up behind the flowers and it's got nice contrast. But it's maybe not where I'm going to, put in all my detail. There'll be areas where I focus my detail. You'll notice I'm changing between yellow and blue if I'm trying to say that some areas in sunlight or some areas in shadow.
Mm.
It's not it's a long business. I don't want to tell you.
There's a bit of wicker to be done.
Yeah, there really is. It's just a whole thing.
Oh, Brenna, she does nuclear medicine. So
No, goodness gracious.
yeah, I had a friend of mine who did nuclear medicine, and so what I would say is that the doctors that know the coolest and scariest stuff
Yeah,
are folks that have to do with nuclear science and
for
biology,
sure.
because they know. I mean, like
They'll be like, you're well within the rads. They get
Well-
you want to make that doctor roll their eyes, go, I think that my counter is like radioactiving me.
they say things that are not very comforting, like just double the distance and you're fine. It's like, every time you double the distance, it's half
You know
the
how much
radiation.
radiation you got on that last plane ride? No, I don't. But you're going to tell me, aren't you?
Yep.
So you can tell we know somebody.
Yeah, no. When he went over to to Japan when they had the reactor.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, actually he didn't go to Japan. He went to an island off the coast of Japan where they measured water, and he did a bunch of they did a bunch of analysis on what would happen if various things went in different ways, and pretty much everything he had to say was it could only get worse.
Yeah. But like on the other hand, he would say like I think I know who we're talking about.
Yeah, it's not bad yet, but he goes,
It could only get worse.
it could only get
Because
worse.
I remember him saying, you know what keeps a warlord out of an area? Radiation sign.
Yes, it was so cool because he would go to the Congo, and because he would have to do checking things out, and like he would go into areas where there were giant chunks of uranium and stuff just sitting on the ground, just because it's a natural ore, and so, but there are signs up there that say radiation, don't go in there, and it's super. There's a lot of superstition around it, so
It's not really superstition as much as like
wow,
survival skills.
yeah, but it's just it's very different there. And I would say that listening to the stories of his adventures were captivating.
Yeah, very captivating.
Yeah. Because people were far like they were more afraid of radiation than they were of warlords for sure.
Yeah.
They were like,
They're like, do something nice like here's a crazy doctor making sentient animals over in the corner. Can we go see him?
this is anything but down there.
Just make sure that I got my little space in. I'm just adding a little green here to that little kind of curvy area where the table and wicker legs do their little deal. So we've got that kind of basically in, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
What could go next? I know. I'm going to get a hog bristle brush. I think I will get a number 8 hog bristle brush. I'm going to take a little of my yellow and my yellow ochre. And some white. And I'm going to start to dry brush my hat. And as you can see, the dry brush is pretty impactful to kind of mimic a natural straw or grain or anything. That is not going to be helpful, that brown.
Now, the white you used for the wicker, did it have any yellow in it, or was it just straight white?
Everything here. So this side was yellow and brown, and this side we added a little ultramarine blue. And we're going to go through and exaggerate some of that when we're finishing it up, making
Okay.
it pop. We're going to darken at the back of the hat. So pay attention to your values. Like when I want the value up here on the hat to be darker, I might add a little more yellow ochre. And if I want it to be lighter, I might add a little more yellow and white. And kind of see that just builds that up. Add a little more white into this. And here at the brim, I'm going to just kind of talk a little bit about a highlight in the hat. Right here. Comes around. You can kind of see that pick up. Now we'll have to edge this if we want that to have its highlight. And there is a little highlight on this edge of the hat.
If you don't have a hog bristle brush yet, what would you suggest for this?
Pick your stiffest brush that you've got and use it very dry. Get the brush that you're like, I just would never use this on my face. Adding a lot more white now. And then that's the brush that you're going to use to dry brush with. Also, keep in mind that you can stiffen a brush by, it's a really crazy thing, but you can take like a brush that's almost stiff enough, and if you tape it with a low tack tape so that you really shorten the length out,
yep,
you can make a softer brush stiffer.
Now, are you using any gloss glazing liquid today?
No, so far not.
Okay. So Alyssa was asking, I just wasn't sure if it was in here, was asking, is that similar to the Liquitex blending medium?
No, it's good. No, sorry. Everyone at Liquitex is going to put my name on a list. The golden glazing liquid is both a glaze and an extender. It doesn't get as tacky, as better drag, and just better performance on every level, in my opinion. But I'll let everybody in the chat, because we have community members that use every product on the planet. I'll have them shout out what they think of all of that, so that you will also hear from students, not just from me, what they like. I'm going to change up my water, yo.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yo.
The one I personally like and think it's worth its weight in gold and buy for my own mother. I literally bought this for my own mother, and she uses it now in her show, is gloss glazing liquid. So it's slow dry extender for acrylic colors, and it's also a glaze. And the reason that it is I can tint it. I can use just the smallest amount, and we might end up doing that to create some shading in our wicker.
Okay.
And even in our hat.
In your hat?
In my hat. In my hat.
What are you doing there?
That's just water.
What did you do?
I just misted my palette with a little bit of water because the paint was wanting to dry, and I didn't want it to dry that fast. I was saying to it, hey, don't you dry on me.
Adriana, she says, can you please share the merch link? Well,
but actually, yes, but it's really cool how it shares. If you look down,
we have a couple.
Below the video, you should see some masks and some cups and stuff. Click any of those, and it'll take you right to the store. And there's just tons of stuff. You got to go through the whole store. I get creative all the time.
Is extender the same as retarder? Katie asks.
Depends. You really got to look at it, because some retarders are not extenders.
Yeah. So
yeah, because if you use too much retarder in your paint, it won't dry.
So, yeah, technically speaking, an extender is more of the stuff that's clear in your paint that your pigment can also go into, that will literally make more paint. It extends the paint. Whereas a retarder is something that chemically slows down the process of it curing. So it retards the drying of the paint. So those two things are scientifically different things, and that's why companies like Golden, Sennelier, Holbein, they provide very specific chemicals and things to do it. Also, as a note, anything that's an extender or a retarder, please note the warnings on the bottle. They're super important.
There isn't really any for this one.
Just in general, check your bottles. Golden's excellent about letting you know anything you need to do about those, but some of those things like synthetic extenders, they have much more strict use.
Yeah, but not the one I recommend from Golden.
Not particular one, but other brands do.
It's just always good to read up on it.
Yeah.
It's not gonna hurt you.
No, not at all. And again, you can always look for those testing labels.
Continuing to lighten up the front of this hat here.
Sorry,
it's okay. Gotta teach the class too. Teaching too. Chatting and teaching and chatting.
You give me coffee and leave me alone back in this corner, and I just...
Okay, it gets right out of hand. Okay, so I'm going to add just a little bit more of the yellow ochre and some of that into my paint. Because we do want value, but we want also the hats to feel quite light. So this is where dry brushing is another way of creating texture.
Yeah.
And creating effect and feel. It's quite lovely and quite wonderful. I get into my Naples yellow. I'm going to very kind of nicely dry brush that a couple places too, because I think it's a great color. And I think it's going to really look nice on the painting. Just creating some shape and form.
Shape and form.
Shape and form. It's always lovely. I'm going to rinse this out. And I'm going to go ahead and get a brush that's got a sharper edge. I'll grab this. This is a number 8 Raphael Textura synthetic filbert. I'll use that.
Ooh.
I know, fancy, fancy. I'm going to get a very light color. I'm going to come here along the edge of the hat. Where that rim is, and lighten it, because it has definitely caught some light on its little edge. I don't want to miss that, especially when we're defining contrast coming off the hat. Also going to come down the front. And where this rolls around the front for sure. On its little ellipse. Just making those definitions. And I'll get into my yellow ochre in my brown a bit. Just catching those little shapes. Sometimes what you're looking for your value. Your value as a person and your value as a hat. These things. Okay. I may hang in this for a second because it's perfectly fine.
It's doing
We're
a
going to
job.
continue to work our wicker. We're going to come up top with a pretty, I'm going to actually take some of my Naples yellow over into my white. But I want an even lighter value than maybe I have Mm,
What's that?
I'm just thinking about how I want to express certain parts of the wicker, if I want to use this brush or the same brush I used before. See how the I when I want to talk about the wicker on the shadow end, I'm going to use my I'm going to take a bit of my main color and add some ultramarine to it. And where I want there to be a bit of a shadow, I'm going to come back with that. I want to come back on this and kind of roll that back. Close to the hat here, I might put a more in shadow. And I'm going to be coming around touching areas where I feel like the wicker would have almost a blue cast to it. I'm just using the filbert, which is as good as, our other brush. Misting my paint. And just having a relax. And some of that may come into my little jar here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just as I need it to. Just finding those shadows. Find them.
Gotta find him. You're
You
hiding.
do. You really do. Gotta find them if you want it to have the feel you're looking for. This is the feel you're looking for. These are the droids. And that'd be great if somebody was like, these are the droids. This is them. You found them. Good job, Stormtrooper. Those guys need to do more target practice.
Or
When the Rocketeer can own you, you need to do more target practice.
Or one might face the fact that Obi-Wan was lying since the first time he walked on the scene.
Or that. I mean, possibly, right?
I mean, how did he know that Luke's aunt and uncle had died before they got back? Now, you could say that maybe he had sensed it, but come on.
You could.
You go back and rewatch it. He was being recruited from the day he stepped out.
I feel so.
Obi-Wan.
I feel there was a big recruit thing going on.
He was waiting on that planet for him.
Well, as we learned, they do. I'm just making sure that my filbert is holding these things more, and its little toe. Coming on the right side of things with a little shadow, and then I'm going to come back from the left side with a highlight, and then boom, there'll be wicker.
See, all controversies on the internet boil down to something to do with Star Wars.
Yeah, that's better than is it Godwin's Law?
Yeah.
It's better than that.
I prefer the Star Wars argument.
Thanks to Godwin's law, I had to shut down my messenger.
That's all right.
You know, you get these days, like people just send you a lot of spam. It's hard to answer art questions. I love answering art questions. Definitely, that's a good thing. I try to get to as many as I can. I mean, more come in than I can answer, but I love answering them.
Well, seriously, Emperor Palpatine is about as political as we will get on the show. And because he was in the Senate and he was a politically elected representative, so we do have to recognize his position as a seat on the
No,
council.
we don't.
But he was a duly elected representative.
No, we don't. We don't got to recognize Palpatine. I'm under no obligation to do a darn thing about Palpatine. And I won't. You can't make me.
You know, the Sith.
This is not a metaphor. I literally mean Palpatine. John and I fight about this a lot because he's got some weird idea that the Empire are the good guys.
Well, I mean, if you just look at this story a little different. I mean,
no,
these rebels
they
are
shot
out
first
here.
a lot. I went back through canon.
The rebels are trying to tip up the Empire with no plans of replacement, with no plans of like, who do they have to lead? There's Leia and Han Solo and some guy who's basically taken over Cloud City. You know, so we don't really have a whole lot of folks that had a lot of galactic leadership experience at the helm behind that.
Gonna go the other way now.
Okay.
Just starting with my star. Don't you touch my Trek.
All right.
So I gotta tell you, like, I don't really love the storylines where Starfleet's corrupt. Kind of totally ruins the point of Starfleet. But it does seem to always be there.
Every once in a while,
Thank you, WB.
Every once in a while, Star Wars does, or Star Trek kind of goes out of, like, they just get crazy.
They do.
Like,
we're coming up with a much lighter color, and we're going to come back the other way.
Every other movie.
And kind of see how that's making the chair happen.
Well,
where does this chair come from?
Yeah,
this is not my beautiful house.
Is it not? It's going to go in your beautiful house. Is it? You're just using pure white there?
No, I'm using a little of the Naples yellow and white. If you didn't have the Naples yellow, I might use a little of the CAD yellow. I'm just coming back with a filbert, and I am just keeping the texture of the brush strokes going.
You're just another layer.
Just another layer. Isn't it great how it comes in? It's a paint wicker. All day. Painting wicker all day long. All day. Painting wicker all day long.
Filling it in there.
Just where it needs it. Just where it needs it, my friends. Sorry, I didn't mean to move on you.
No, that's all right. Again,
but I do like to put a little yellow into it. I still don't want it to be a pure white.
All right.
You know, we're still not coming in pure white. We've got a little bit of yellow.
It really does make it pop.
It is, isn't it? And come on the top of that little weave. And every once in a while, coming over stuff with a very strong kind of pure white stroke to enforce that wicker texture. And that's why I like to leave a little room for my light values so I can come back with a lighter color, picking up little bits of light within the wicker. Not everywhere. A couple places. We're painting wicker. Can we like wire and hang today?
I
Feel like
think
I
we can
earned
wire
it.
hang this.
Feel like I earned it.
You did. It's
I
really coming
faced
together.
it. I faced it. I faced it. You faced it. We faced it. We went with it. You could probably have learned this whole thing in time lapse. We made you watch it in real time. So I like to I'm changing the orientation of the light. We're down here, it's a little more in shadow, and I'm just catching the highlight of the curve of the seat.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that.
Lily was very nice, and she said that I have a voice for radio.
Oh, you do. And also, unlike me, he can sing.
I used to laugh because it was Rodney Dangerfield who said, I got a face for radio. So it always made me laugh.
Well, you are not wrong. He does have a voice for radio. I think he's got a very pleasant voice. To me.
Everyone's like, what's a radio?
Don't you remember those?
It's that thing that you could just listen to. It did not have anything. Just volume up and volume down.
Now, as I come around this side, I'm going to do a lighter color, but I might do some of it with a bit of a blue cast to it because we know this is a little more in shadow. So this will be highlighted. But a little bit of a shadowy highlight.
Oh, Adriana just found your masks.
Oh, did she? Did
Yeah,
you like
she's like-
them? I had a good time with those. I really did.
You did. You went down the mask hole.
And again, spread joy for 15% off until the 31st. Just anything you get from there. From my store. I don't think it works for everybody's store, but works for my store. I'm just trying to come in and capture the shape and vector and idea of
You got
all of
those-
it.
It's definitely got a wicker feel to it.
And then at the top of the chair, I'm going to come in and definitely define some little highlights. We're like, oh. Does it feel like wicker, my friends?
Oh, it does. It looks really good.
A little wicker feel, don't it? I'm just, again, kind of cleaning up some of the definition that I roughly put in.
Hmm?
Just so that my chair is it, because I got to look at it.
Gotta look.
I got to look at it, so there's some things I got to do so I'm happy.
Oh, getting the highlights in there now.
Yeah, I'm just using some thick white paint. I'm going to come here and on the edge of the brush, I'm going to just kind of get some pure white highlights just to help get that wicker in. Again, my mother-in-law worked real hard on the room.
Mm.
The room is purple. It's got like this light purple, and then it has like a nice kind of soft sagey green accent, and then a very deep plum, which that particular deep color was like painting the wall with quinacridone magenta gloss in student paint. I just feel really bad about it. Isn't that? It's like one of those paints where it's like, I need many more coats than you wanted to do. That's what it says.
This painting needs like many coats.
Sometimes, that is the truth, though.
It's going to make Goodwill jealous. So many
What?
coats.
Are we taking it to Goodwill?
No, because there's so many coats at Goodwill.
Oh,
People donate their coats. This has more coats than Goodwill.
I hear ya. I did not get that.
That's okay.
My husband tells jokes that sadly I have to say, like, sometimes.
Sometimes there's a wall between us.
Yeah. Now, I may make some differences. I feel like I might want to do something with the hat ribbon and a little different than the painting. If you want to do the hat ribbon like the painting, it is in the same colors. The raffia is in the same colors as the hat.
Mm.
And that's cool. And that's fine. And you could do that. I wouldn't be mad at you.
You would not?
But this is in my home, so.
So you're doing it in your colors.
I did it my way. I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt sienna over to my phthalo green. And I might even get some of my add yellow into that. So I'm going to do a green band.
I love Cinnamon's like, I've never painted a wicker chair live before. I'll just go do that.
I don't think I've ever painted a wicker chair before.
I know I've never seen you. I've never seen you paint wicker ever before.
I'm going to just decide right now how I feel like painting wicker.
So
that's what's happening.
I mean, this is sort of our life. She's so worried like 5 minutes before the show that we've got to get our mic on, got to get our water ready. Doesn't even think about, have you rehearsed this?
Why would I need to rehearse it? I think it's a good chair.
It's a totally good chair that has never been painted with any of these techniques before.
It's a good idea that they would work.
Well, I mean, no, like you've done all these individual things. I just don't. What I find amazing is that you can just paint all these things, and it's interesting because it breaks down just from the basic. Like you have these core.
I am mixing up different values of green. The color mixes are cad yellow, burnt sienna, phthalo blue, phthalo green, and white.
So what I would say is it's interesting how you can break down this relatively complex painting very easily.
Well, yeah. So basically, if you want to change the color of the hat, pay attention to the value on your reference.
Good call there.
And mimic that.
So the Florida lass says, John, I remember Cinnamon painting a wicker chairs on the front porch of a farmhouse.
Thank you.
So
pretty sure that worked out.
Well, dang, how did I run out of disk space?
Oh, no.
Oh, I know what it was because I was recording that time lapse of you. So,
were you?
Yep.
Time-lapsing something?
So if we're going to get any of this other stuff, I'm going to have to pull it off the cloud. It's my local storage is full.
If you can, do so.
Oh, it'll be fine. Not worried about it.
Looking really good. I really like that. I'm just doing like little, very kind of energetic brush strokes over here in my deepest color. And I'll put some over here. This is like the back of something that happened on a hat.
Mm.
It's the back of something that happened on a hat. It's like the back of something that happened on a hat. I will use some of my blue and green to create some deep values. Just keep going with the colors that I'm liking, which is the phthalo green and the cad yellow and the burnt sienna.
Oh,
And a little bit off the back. So when you have that basic structure, then I can come in and get a bunch of my yellow and a ton of white. And highlight some of what I've got going on back here where the light would catch it. A little bit of the back of the bow. You could do something that was a pop of color. You could do a blue ribbon back here really nicely. And I also think a pink ribbon would go. Not in the room about to put this in, but, in life.
Mm-hmm.
In general, would be okay. Just making sure. That the deep value needed to help these things pop is present. Now, the great news is once we have that in, we can start to do our jar.
Oh, yeah.
Which is distinctly, truly a purple. It's a purple and a little bit of the ultramarine blue, and you definitely are going to want to get some white into it to really, really see it. So I'm going to start with, when you're painting glass, even colored glass, you're not painting the see-through part of it, you're painting the light and shadow you can see.
Mm-hmm.
You're not painting what you can't see. I'm definitely lightening the value. And I'll put out some more white. That's what I'm using the most of, I think, this painting is the white.
Yeah.
And we're actually kind of coming into the home stretch.
I see that.
So that's always interesting too, is that we are coming into a home stretch here. And just using a filbert here. This is a number 8 filbert. Any filbert would do.
Any filbert will do.
Any filbert will do. And we may do a ribbon and we may not do a ribbon. It really depends on kind of like my mood. I'm going to come back with some phthalo blue from the opposite side. I'm kind of blending this through. I can really scuffle and scumble like this just because the brush I have is so resilient
Yeah.
that that's super doable for me. Let's get some deep kind of greens going in here. These are deep in the glass. Leaves and stems that you can see. Stuff in the glass still has lighting. So I'm picking up a couple little highlights to make sure that I can see that. That's when the glass is going to start
Right.
to feel see-through. What's happening? Now, while that's having a dry, I'm going to come in and get a little bit of my magenta and some white, shockingly enough. And at this corner, pull down a bit of that. If I want to do any more there, the green's got to be really, really dry. So for anything I've got going on right now, I really need my greens to be dry. I'm going to hair dry everything for a second because this is going to wrap up fast, and I really want all my greens to be dry.
Okay. So, yeah, and that's I'll zoom over there, and as you can see, yeah, it's going to be really important to make sure that all right through here, this area is nice and dry so that as she adds the flowers right above it and over the top of that, that it doesn't get sticky or gummy and makes that nice and easy. So we'll just make sure that she gets a thoroughly dry surface there so that when we add the next layers of paint, they don't stick or gum or lift or do any of the funny things that can happen if you don't have it fully cured. So we'll I think she may be getting close to, there she goes.
Thing I can do
What can you do?
with clean water and a very soft brush. This is my blending brush for most of my classes. I'm going to use real clean water. I'm going to come through and remove all my chalk lines.
Just using a little water to do that?
Just a little clean water, not my paint water. Too dirty that. And everything's got to be dry for it to work. You can see that takes it right off. Things
Certainly.
that can mess it up is if I try to grid while the paint is still soft, be it heat or just not cured. I really like this painting.
It's really turned out nice.
This is going to look so good. It's going to look so good. All right. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow into my quinacridone. Get that glass going. Pretty good. Pretty good. I'm going to get a little bit of my ultramarine and white. Kind of imply a far side of the jar. Come up between the stems. Capture that. What kind of flower do I feel like on my hat?
Don't know.
I don't know.
This is your
I know.
painting.
I'm just enjoying it so much. I take a little of my pink and purple. So when I paint little flowers, I paint kind of like the bowl shape, and then I'll come in and create highlights or little bits of detail to help define them. I like to use a round brush, and I have to say, sometimes these loose, messy flowers are probably the hardest part for the student, just because you guys are really hard on yourself. And sometimes it's also that you just haven't painted a lot of flowers yet. What I will do is I will get the highlights of the petals to help speak to the shape. And then if I put in centers, it will just suddenly be flowers. It's really crazy. And grab some yellow. I'll mix it with the and then you just see a little bit there. Come down. Touch down some little flowers, little sprigs coming down. Peeking between the little bits of green raffia. Because I would buy this hat if I saw it. So, paint things you would purchase for yourself. Paint the things you would purchase for yourself. I'm going to switch my water. I've got some clean water right here.
Yeah.
And get some white into this on a very, very light value. Pick up some highlights on your structures in your hat. So you can really see it into the painting. Adding little bits like that could be leaves or weird little things. Okay, so they put these crazy little silk flowers here, but they are kind of fun. And I have to decide if that's what I want to do, if I want that little arrangement to be.
Yeah.
Which is really what we're always doing, And take some blue and maybe some purple. I really want them to stand out.
Ready to make it pop, pop.
Yeah, I do. I want to pop, pop, pop. So sometimes you'll look at something and be like, how can I get to my pop, pop, pop?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the pop? I'm going to come here and I will play with blue first. I can always change it.
Ooh.
And at least give myself some of this. I'm touching little petals back. I was trying to pick up little bits of color that seemed to hold against the space. And I might mix some pink and purple in there and make it a bit of an arrangement and then hit with little bits of yellow. Let's bring something down here. I'm using the tip of the brush. I'm doing that same touch stroke that you see me do when I'm doing petals or grass or anything. Let's get into our green. And we'll start with a basic phthalo green and a little bit of cadmium yellow. Start adding some green into our floral arrangement.
Wow, this is really coming together.
Thank you. Sometimes what I'll try to do is I will look for strokes that feel like natural objects.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I want to fill some of this in, and I've got my green raffia there, so that'll tie in nicely. I've got enough deep green in that. I'll come right into my yellow. A very bright green. Pick up a few colors. While that's having a dry, before I can bring any leaves in front, I'm going to grab some of my white. Might have just a smidge of my ultramarine in it. I'm going to start to pick up some little highlights. Very lightly dry brush and curve around the sides here. And this sort of little lyrical little thing to help that glow and come to life. I'm going to let everything have a resty rest here for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get my fanned brush out. I think I'll get my smaller fan. Where's my smallest fan? In my line of fans. In my fans. My line of fans. Here's a smaller fan. Because this is up closer to me, so that way I'll have a little more control over it.
Good.
And we'll start to add some of these little brighter textures down in places where focus could be. And I'm going to put out some more green.
Gotta have the green.
Gotta have the green. Do I have enough green? I don't know. Gotta have the yellow. Do I have enough yellow? I don't know. I do have enough brown, so that's very.
I think you have enough paint. We
No.
have some.
Never have too much paint.
Until you have to move it 2,000 miles.
What? Fine. I'm bringing up little, very definitive of what we've already had in the piece. And little brush strokes here. And like I said, the reason the detailing down here was maybe not as critical is we were going to be creating this layering. And because the muted green that we had everywhere else with the burnt sienna, even just phthalo, is kind of popping.
Yeah.
Just little highlights and that, like something picked up the light, right?
Yeah.
And you layer over, and you want to make these things go different directions.
Mhm.
Now pull them into each other, weave them in. You want it to feel wild and unruly. And I want enough of the chair peeking out from this foliage that you can still really see the structure or get a sense of it, or it's implied at you.
Yeah.
Back into our yellow and pinks. And we'll add some more whites out there if we need them. I'm going to put some yellow right here because I think I need some bright yellow.
Now, what color did you add to the phthalo blue to make that green?
Here?
That's that yellow?
I added phthalo green, I add cad yellow, and this is the Naples yellow light. You don't have it, just skip it. It's okay. It won't ruin your painting.
Okay.
It won't do it. It'll be just fine. You'll be okay. I need some more white. I'll put it out here.
Patty thinks this looks so amazing.
Thank you, Patty.
We're going to have to do some more bubble dances here.
Oh, do you want to bubble before we finish up? Because I'm gonna wrap up fast. From
here,
here,
wrap up fast? Okay.
It's gonna go real fast. So let's bubble now.
All right.
Let's bubble. See where we're at.
Oh,
So this is where we're at, right before the end.
Right before the end.
Right before the end.
Before the end.
Did this live.
Yeah. Live. All right.
So from here to my wall, hopefully from here to your wall.
So I want to see everybody's painting that they did on the side of a van. Take a picture, post it up in the Art Sherpa official. I want to see it.
What do you want to see?
Well, earlier I was talking about if you paint this on the side of a van, I really want to see it. But if you paint anything on the side of a van, I want to see it. Or
All
this.
right, moderators. I guess we're letting paintings on the side of the van in group.
Well, no, just on the one day that we can see it. Just that one day.
What's the one day?
I don't know. What one day can we see the pictures of
I think at this point, if you hand-painted the side of your van.
You painted it, not like somebody else's. I want to see your painting.
Your painting on the side of a van.
That counts on.
And just put a thing in there, John said.
But only that one.
John said.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cause trouble for moderators.
Moderators are good. As long as the moderators know what's going on, they're good. It's when we forget to tell them, and they're like, "Wait, what? We're doing that today."
But no, I want to see these paintings. This is a really good one.
I like this one. Yeah,
this one turned out really nice.
Hi, sweetie. Hi, I see you. Yes, hi.
We have visitors down there.
Yeah, I think somebody wants outside.
Oh.
It's like, I just held it as long as I can. I think that's actually what I'm getting is I've held it as long as I can hold it.
Yeah, this painting makes me smile too, Suki says.
I'm going to just touch little bits of other colors in my bouquet now.
Just touch them up. Nice when you just.
While I'm doing this, do you want to like put it on the painting? She looks so freaked out. You can make it color. Maybe if you hold her in your lap, she'll be okay. She's sniffing over here.
Tricks.
She's
What'd
doing
you
that
do? Where's
when
the
she
Twix?
thinks we've just sucked.
Oh well, probably. She sometimes knows how to get back here to me. It just depends on what she wants to do. It's actually not been that long of a show. We're doing
No,
okay.
it really hasn't. Not compared to some that we've done or we could do. We could do a 12-hour marathon.
Yes, you could.
Just adding a little pink. I think sometimes it's nice to tie in colors that you see. I'm going to get into my Naples yellow here. And what I'm doing right now is I'm using this wonderful floral arrangement as an opportunity to create color continuity.
Hmm.
Taking a little bit of my purple and white, because remember with Doc's purple, it's pretty hard to see unless there's some white in it. So just making sure that there's some purple here too, right? Even beyond the glass.
Yeah.
Last but not least, I think I want to put some yellow and a little white.
Abigail says she loves the Sherpa's version more than the reference photo.
Thank you so much.
I have to say I agree. Oh,
Well,
and thank you, Claire. She sent a sticker that says, "Thank you for being you."
thank you, Claire.
That was a very nice sticker. Thank you.
I'm getting a little of the yellow into it. Wipe off, get more into my period cad yellow, which is always sort of fun and a little white.
Wow, this is a really nice painting.
Yeah, I am liking it. Gonna use some green to pull continuity in with the jar here. I'm mixing up my dark green and my light green. And what I'm looking to do is just make sure that there's some value and depth in our floral arrangement. I'm also going to come into the glass here and just make sure that some of this does have that little glow, so it looks like the jar's glowing. Because I want the jar to glow. And it's at the end, guys, and I can use up my paint, but it's super gummy because of our conditions.
Get some good clean
If you
paint.
can grab me one fresh thing of water, I'll finish out, babe.
All right.
Here you go. Just one. So I will go ahead and I'm going to put out some more of my dots in phthalo, more of my purple colors, and I'm just going to get my flowers sort of in there now is what I'm wanting to do. That's what I'm excited about doing. I'll be using similar stuff, and I'm just going to put out my phthalo and my quin, and I'm going to get my docks and some white.
All right.
And we're going to finish out these flowers, and then we're going to, I think, sign it.
Mm-hmm.
I like this ribbon here so much. I'm really happy with the jar, and I feel like anything across it will just sort of like take away.
Yeah.
So I'm inclined not to do it. In fact, I'm inclined to just lean into the reflections a little more. Just so we really feel the jar a bit.
Oh, Twix the opportunist. She came up here to get my drink. She wants coffee.
Is that what it is?
She does. She's over here she's snarfling into my coffee cup. Except for the fact that it was empty.
It's empty coffee. So with this, I'm just adding some deep purple to make sure that the glass feels like it's got some shadow in it. It's got some highlights. That way those are looking pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get into my synthetic fan, the one I used earlier. Rinse it out fairly well. And get my purples going again and make sure that there's a lot of purple up front, up close here, of the purple flowers that we had going on. Again, if you're not familiar with the fan brush, you may find it helpful to watch our fan brush video.
Mm-hmm.
It will help a bit. And again, you want that sense of purple throughout the piece because the whole point of this piece is there's so much purple, which is, by the way, my very favorite color.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just making sure my flowers are super purple up front, which they are. Might as well add some deep purple shadow just to make sure that that's represented. I've got my pink and blue here just in case I need to pull any values out or weave into the layer behind it. Because sometimes that's a thing we got to do.
We don't really need that reference photo up there anymore, do we?
No. We've now moved past the reference photo. If anything, you want to be able to do and have in your life, in your home. Let's look at that.
Oh, that turned out fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really liking that. And just a little highlight some of this. Side. We use the phthalo blue, and it still keeps us in that feeling of purple, but it gives us these sort of pops of color.
Cindy says that the flowers really brought it all to life.
It's just wonderful, isn't it? It's just so fun. Looking for little spots. Say, please give me some color. I
Yeah.
feel dull and go back. Mm.
It's really coming together.
Yeah, I'm not unhappy with it. It doesn't make me mad. I'm not mad at it.
At this
I'm
point,
adding a little bit of purple at the bottom.
you're just adding this to your personal taste level, huh?
Yeah, this is for my home.
So if you're doing this at your house, you may want to add more or less purple flowers.
Yes. You might be like, I need more. And you might be like, that is all. No more of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might want to also, just curious, I'll see if I like it. Sometimes I do like the combo of those two. The other fun color combo, weirdly enough, is quinacridone red and Diox purple.
Mm.
In my experience, more color doesn't make things worse.
This is really fantastic.
I'm wondering how many people think they're going to actually go for the whole project.
Oh, I'm curious too. I think that quite a few people will. This is a pretty popular subject here. A lot of people love the flowers. They like the chair, the hat, the subject. It's just really cute.
Just feels like joy, doesn't it?
Yeah. What you doing there?
Just adding some highlights to my chair.
Oh, with your fan brush.
Yeah. I was wondering what that might be like. Would I like it? Sometimes you'll have a tool and you'll be like, what happened? You're like, I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I want to glint a little light off the hat, how would that work?
Yeah.
Pretty darn well. Pretty darn well, I say. Sometimes you get to a thing and you're like, I want to say.
You want to get it just a place where you want to make it.
You got to.
Yeah. Hmm. What you pondering?
The piece. I'm always pondering the piece. I'm now kind of tipping the brush handle really perpendicular and just tapping to capture a little bit like maybe something caught some light
Mm-hmm.
right here. Maybe energetic, grab some Naples yellow, trying to get some glistening. Sometimes you just want to capture something that says, "Oh, I'm bright and cheerful." Not that in general you're trying to capture a downer.
What do you mean?
Sometimes you want to capture bright and cheerful. Mostly people capture bright and cheerful, though sometimes they want to capture some sadness.
That's true.
Very often, we like to capture that better moment. We want to look at things in our home that speaks to the space we want to feel. I just think I've gotten it there.
That's awesome.
I think short of, touching up the bottom, I think I'm done. So where's my signature brush?
Yeah, that's really great. Just taking a look at it there. It's been really fun hanging out with everybody here today.
It really has. Thank you guys. I so appreciate everybody's time.
Yeah.
I think I'm really happy with this piece.
Oh, yeah. That turned out amazing.
I'll be happy to have it on my wall in that room. I think it's going to work really, really well.
Oh, yeah.
Could have looked a lot of places for painting that would go, or I could just paint a painting that would go. Sometimes that's the only thing you can do is just paint something that would go.
Sometimes
and who
that's all
does?
you
I
can
think
do.
I actually have taken a wicker chair to a flower field to take pictures.
Yeah.
I think I've done that.
Look at that.
Oh, and with bubbles, it's just,
And with
yes,
bubbles.
it's that feeling. Breathe the happy bubbles in. Breathe all the worries out. Happy bubbles in. Always worries out. I hope you love your painting as much as I love mine, and you're excited to hang it up on the wall as much as I'm excited to hang up mine. I really want to thank my mother-in-law for helping paint the room. I'm really excited to have a purple space. I've wanted one for a long time. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And we want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.